I just thinking about that, I remember playing the Flats Classic for a few years, and gosh, what was his name? Bob
Harris.
Harris. Yeah, thank you.
Bob.
So we were doing Ring of Fire, and wasn't really thinking, I guess, and he gets everybody around this whole ring with probably 100 of us, and he's standing near the bucket, and he says, on 3 or whatever, and then he just gets, so that night somebody recorded it, and he's like, boom, boom, slow motion, he gets hit by about 15 discs. It was just
Wow.
That's hilarious.
Bob was quite the character. So many good people.
All right, before we start to diverge and digress, because there's a lot of interesting cans, a lot of worms in that can, let's get back to reset. Mace Man, you're right at the top. You were about to talk about the show.
I was about to blow it, right? Okay, so I hit the wrong button there, so that explains where I was for a minute. And so now I'm going to start this webinar. And I don't know the difference between the two, but it's started now. And I believe we're live on Facebook as well.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. We might have got lost, so I may have to start that again too.
No, it's always been streaming.
So you're doing this live?
So all right, cool. So we're all good. So anyways, we are going to jump to doing this once a week thing, starting now. I mean, starting next week. We're gonna have, I've got the next 4 guests lined up. We're gonna have Kevin McCoy next week. We're gonna have Jennifer Allen the following week. We're gonna have Brad Schick the week after that. And then we're gonna touch bases again with Jonathan Poole, get a 6-month out update on USDGC.
Wow.
And Harold has agreed to be on the show, but I don't know if he's gonna be on the show the next week, but that's the hope. And so I think we have the next 5 scheduled.
Awesome.
We definitely have the next 4.
Yeah, at least the next 4.
I bet you Harold will pull through.
Well, he said yes already. It's just a matter of, is he available that week?
Yeah.
So, he's got a lot of kids and stuff and lots of things going on, and
few things going on. Absolutely, he does.
Couple of hands in a couple of different fires. So anyways, but that's what we're trying to do, is just tell some stories that a lot of the folks that are out there playing a lot now don't know. And
but the key is those dates, those weeks are not necessarily always going to be Wednesday.
Right, correct. Because even like in this schedule, we've had a hard time. This is tough. I mean, we started out Tuesdays this year, and now already we went to Wednesdays, and it's not necessarily working for everybody either. So we're trying to go with a flex day of Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. We're trying to stick with the 8 p.m. Eastern time, but that doesn't always work either, because that puts you guys at 5 o'clock on the West Coast. And so, but we're just trying to be flexible, because it's not easy just getting 3 people together for obviously for just a little chat for an hour. But that's the goal. So the other thing that's also going to come into play is Paul and I are both avid hockey fans, and so there's this schedule is going to be kind of moved around because of playoff games, especially. I have season tickets, so home games I'll be going, and we can do this on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or Thursday and just flex it around a little bit. So everybody else has their things too. Like Jennifer was traveling and Brad was going on vacation, so we flipped them, and I think we got a good lineup so far. And then I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too far, but we got some cool plans for the summer too. And we're going to lead all the way up into the 25th USDGC, and we're going to do some of this live there too. So that gives you an idea of what we've got planned for the year, and there's going to be more than that to come. I'm pretty certain that I'm going to be in Flagstaff for the Masters World Championship too. And if all goes well, I'll be delivering the trophies to you on that trip.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, if all goes well, we'll see what happens.
Well, now speaking of Arizona, and that leads perfectly into our next guest, the man you see right here on screen with us. Here it's time for our treasured already an institution intro. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very special guest to the tee. He's the Ginger Ninja who can fling that discraft stack. Pyramid or circle, it doesn't matter for this hefty hitter. From the mean streets of Cairo to the sweet streets of Scottsdale, he delivers the goodness, all finesse and no flail. He's run the Bob West. He's won the Bob West. He even played with Bob West. He's a man of many hats, and all of them are broken down snapbacks and faded in the desert sun. His rules for radicals are: get a grip, keep your chin up, and always be smooth with it. According to Beckett Grading Services, he's a mint 9.5 out of 10. He's got 77 career tour wins, and he's 55th in the world. He's playing in his 38th straight season. Ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest tonight. He's the Can-Am champ, the warrant officer of the Wide Open, the tyrant of the Tumbleweed, and the Dan with the plan. Please welcome Dan, the Desert Rattler, Ginnelly.
Thank you. That was awesome. You know, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Entirely our pleasure to be able to host you here. I forgot to mention you are a Hall of Famer and definitely one of the cheeriest, smiling faces you'll ever see on the tour. If ever there's anyone who can carry the mantle of Bob West, it's you for sure.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to just start, if you don't mind, about God, I think I was probably 6 months into playing, and Bob West came and played a tournament here in Mesa, Arizona. And I was in his group, and he was just, I think he got a hole-in-one that round, and he was just the epitome of a calm, cool cat, because I just, too often when you played, even though I was just new at the game, people took it a little too serious, you know, and were just not too fun to play with. I think that's how I ended up kind of being. I'm naturally kind of chatty, but I just started I just wouldn't give myself that opportunity. I tried to be but I know I chatted too much. So anyhow, back to Bob, I play around with him, and he's like, gives me his number and says, anytime you're in HB, come visit. And I think within a month I went and played the Huntington Beach, I forgot what they called it, some event.
Higher Flyer.
Yeah, Higher Flyers. Thank you. Yep. So there was just a lot from, obviously you learn from everybody. But
so
definitely.
So let's jump back one step from that right there and say, usually we start with an origin story. How did you get started? And Paul did a little bit of, he did a little homework on you, and he said that he saw that you were a drywaller and you saw a course outside the window of a house you were working on.
Yeah, it wasn't houses. I was in commercial work. I'm going to segue back to being, I was fortunate. I was born in Thailand. I spent most of my childhood overseas. My father worked for the US government in fisheries and a few other things. And like Paul had mentioned, Cairo, we would climb the pyramids, and you're 16. I was there from 16 to 19 years old. There's not a lot to do. And so the pyramids are just phenomenal. When I think I was 16, 78, maybe 77. Anyhow, first time I saw the pyramids, and you just floored. But when they're lit up at night, just beautiful. So on the weekend we would go climb up them, and they're forbidden to climb, but they're not going to chase you. So you'd stay up there till midnight. At midnight, all the lights shut off, and then you'd climb down. And obviously I was, doing this with people that had been living in Cairo for a while already. I didn't just move there and do it on my own. But we would throw freaking masters, whammos off of the top. So I was always,
oh wow.
Most of
us.
Wait,
you threw a frisbee off the top of the pyramid.
Cheops is the biggest pyramid, about 700 feet. Yeah.
There's code action right there.
I gotta tell you though, we stayed up there a few times and woke up one morning, because it's about 40 square feet, maybe 50. It's pretty big. And we're teenagers. We ended up staying the night. I think we were too tired, or, maybe some extracurricular activities.
Maybe.
I wake up at sunrise and I hear whack. And I'm like, what the heck? I look over, and there's this punk rock just started coming around, and especially being close to Europe, Cairo, there was this punk guy, all dressed up like a punk guy, like a Dead Kennedys or whatever, and he's hitting golf balls. He's hitting golf balls off the freaking pyramids. Thank God it was
Nice.
early, because that would, but anyhow.
So
So
he
where-
arrives for his morning drive and he sees a couple of catatonic teenagers at the top of his tee.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
hilarious.
I was heavily into Frisbee, and I moved back to the States. My parents stayed overseas. Arizona is the only place I've ever lived. And we moved here when I was about 15 because of my father's health was bad. The Orient was too humid for him. He was on his deathbed, but he's 92 now and living in,
Wow.
so we moved back overseas to where the climate was like Arizona. He lives up in the mountains of Arizona. But so I was into, playing Frisbee, and I moved to Phoenix, and a friend of mine got me into drywall. I joined the union. We were doing a commercial building, metal stud, for the first 20 years, right next to a park. So it was close, Brian, what you were saying. I looked out the building and I seen these ding dongs, holding a Frisbee, doing this. And I went down there and I'm like, what's going on? The guy sold me a disc, and man, hook, line, and sinker.
Oh,
Probably
right.
one of the-
So, but you already had all that playing or that throwing and just playing catch under your
Yeah.
belt.
Yeah.
So did you do overalls as well, or was it just did you?
Yeah,
just,
yeah. Well, we did overalls because that's mostly what everybody did.
Right.
But it wasn't. Nobody ever practiced it. So only a couple times a year. And living close to La Mirada, they had the U.S. Open. Mangoni was really, La Mirada was rocking in the 80s,
Sure.
and I kind of, I did it just for a little while, and then I stopped and focused on disc golf because I was only so at everything when I realized that this, singular sport was really what I wanted. So plus I remember the first time somebody glued a nail on, they didn't tell me when I started doing a delay, they didn't mention that you tap with your other finger, and I think I went to poke right away to do a tap, and it tore my fingernail off.
Oh, really?
Well, at least you didn't puncture a hole through the lid.
Yeah.
But it's
Good
interesting that you say that you kind of packed away the rest of the Frisbee sports to focus on disc golf. But in 90, I think it was 94 and 96, I could be wrong with the dates, but you played for at least double disc court. I saw some standings at was it the Arizona State Championships? Or
Yeah, you can thank Harvey for that. And I thought it was fantastic when I started playing DDC. Wow, I mean, all those guys around here, especially San Diego, Snapper and Ron Vingerelli and just all of them, and Harvey. So Harvey really brought that on. And when he turned me on to DDC, I was thinking, oh God, I'm like, I'd rather do this than play disc golf, seriously. But it just wasn't as popular.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's one of those sports that virtually are probably 99% of disc golfers right now across the world. If you surveyed them, they'd have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
I'm one of
And
them.
when
I
I've
mean,
seen,
I have a very, very, very little bit of information on it, and that's about it.
That's
I
kind of
got-
like pickleball with the Frisbee, because I just started playing pickleball. But it's there's a lot of communication needed. When I first started playing, especially Harvey, because he's such an overall badass. Excuse me for,
That's
but
all right.
he'd just tell you what to do, Brian. If you were playing with him, he'd just like in the air. He's like, wait, and you'd catch the disc. He'd throw the other one, and you just it's basically joystick.
Nice.
Wasn't that hard?
Great coach.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Do you remember when you got your PDGA number and why?
Yes, of course I do, because I like telling stories, and that one is, I guess I'm trying to not be too talk about myself, but I had a lot of flaming curly red hair. I looked like Robert Plant or whatever, and I was always, as you could see in that one picture, I never wore anything but a pair of swim trunks and flip-flops, and I played Vista all the time, and I started playing tournaments right away, but Mike Hughes was he was the main Arizona guy. He ran on the Worlds, he did all kinds of stuff. Well, so I started getting really good, and Hosfeld was staying with him doing a juggling comedian act through the States. And he said, if you're looking for, some competition, go find this guy, at Vista. And so he came over, and back in the day, a lot of times I was pretty naive, but a lot of times people would walk up and somebody must have told them about me being pretty good, and they'd come up and, hey, $20 for a round, whatever. And so as I'm schooling him or beating him pretty good, because it's my backyard, he tells me he's the world champ, current world champ. And I'm like,
Hosfeld was?
yeah, because it was 87. And so I'm thinking,
nice.
So back in the day, like the PDJ stats, I've heard that they've got a lot of the tournaments from the old days, but half of them probably weren't back in the day, and I'm sure weren't PDJ events. It was
sure, right on.
We played a lot of tournaments that weren't PDJ sanctioned. So yeah, I joined the PDJ because Greg and played my first Worlds in 88 in Cincinnati. Living in the desert, we didn't play in any type of element, and it took me a little while. That's why I think in 88 I decided to leave during the summer, and I hadn't seen America, and go off for a little bit and play, because I think it rained so much there. I was like a wet cat
in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've got some wet course stories from Cincinnati for sure. Like Banklick. Have you ever played Banklick?
Well, so me and Slate Paul redesigned Banklick. Yeah.
Okay, so
like 90
I played it in a tournament one time, and they had to cut the bottom holes out because they were like, because you couldn't get back up. It rained. Yeah. I mean, like it was. I think 3 different times I've played where I was just like going, "Is it gonna lightning? Come on, seriously." It's gonna lightning, right? Maybe 4 now that I think about Japan too. I've played in rain like inches, like 5-6 inches in a round or something like that. USDGC, Japan, Banklick, and one time at Oktober Frizz, and it never, like, you're just thinking, my Gore-Tex socks filled up because the water was running down my legs. That's how bad it was raining. Okay.
Yeah, like fish are gonna start swimming in your socks.
Yeah, and at Banklick, they, those, I don't remember the numbers, but those, like, there's like those 2 holes there's a hole that plays down, and then 2 along that creek, and then one that plays back out, and you couldn't get back out. Like it was so wet. It was like they were gonna have to like leave ropes down there for you to pull yourself back up.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that man, it rains in Cincinnati.
It will just also too in 88, I think I Blair Paulson had helped me really get out there and out of Indianapolis, and then I met Slate and Steve, and I met Brent Hambrick. Early on, Brent says, "Hey, there's a two single day tournaments in Toronto." So I go up with Brent to Toronto, and so the first day was on Ward Island, and the fog rolled in, and it rained so hard you couldn't see the baskets. They stopped the ferry, and so it was so, it's just basically lit out there. But the very next day was a Etobicoke. It cleared up. It was windy as F. I ended up tying, I think, Malton and maybe beating him in a playoff. And I remember Brian Honegger coming up to me, and because he didn't know me, and he's like, "Didn't you just not cash? Didn't you get like almost dead last yesterday on the island?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And he's like, "But and I'm like, "Well, I'm from Arizona. We don't play in the rain."
You play in the wind, but not the rain.
Yeah. Well, we don't get much rain. I mean, this year's been crazy. It's been super crazy because
it rained while I was out there.
Yeah, it's still, we're supposed to be getting rain probably tonight, but we have one huge lake, Roosevelt Lake, and it has not been 100% and probably full in 15 years, and it's over full now, which is it's good for because so many people are moving out here, and I don't mean to change the subject, but that's the huge topic. I don't, people are always worried about where's everybody? There's too many people and not enough water. Yeah. But anyhow.
So just to cycle back about your PDJ number, what do you remember when you got it?
No. in 87.
Because usually people get PDJ numbers, or at least my experience studying the PDJ number distribution has been a lot of people, especially in the early days, they would get it right before the Worlds. And so you would have like
Well,
two or
so
300 number sequence.
yeah, and I'm 3591,
Yeah.
but remember, Hosfeld had already won 87 Worlds, so it was probably near the end of the year. It was probably right after he won the Worlds. He visited here, I think probably October. You know, he won in Toronto, right? Beating Sully in a playoff.
That's a story in itself.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard it numerous times
From a bunch
both.
of different people, probably.
Yeah, well, listening it to Mike and listening to Greg.
Yeah.
And then and then Mike Hughes too. I guess Mike Hughes was, he was a friend of Greg, and Greg threw that shot in. Sully was like, I think it was Mike was mentioning how ecstatic Hubie was. And
now, just fun fact for you, in that playoff, that fourth hole where the playoff ended. Now this is I get this directly from Sully. I remember interviewing him for the Disc Golf Journal back in the day, so I got this right from the horse's mouth. But it apparently used to be on the island. All of that parkland was there were houses and cottages and stuff,
right.
and a lot of those cottages turned into full-time housing, and so it just turned out that where hole number 4 was, where Hosfeld, where Sully cut through the chains, would have been the backyard of his grandfather's place.
Oh man.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And well, for one, cutting through the chains, those things were boat anchors.
Oh, I know.
So St. Thomas had skinny little chains, and the island had thick chains.
Oh, we had those thick chain baskets until 1999. That's when we finally replaced them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's probably when you got involved, right?
I got involved in 93, but 99 was when I put my efforts into doing what I could to help out. But listen, while we're talking about this, I want to take you back. We have obviously a lot of viewers, or some of my friends from the Toronto and the Canada region, and of course anything that touches on, early Toronto stories, early Canada stories. So I just want to take you back, first of all, to 1991. That was kind of your breakout year. Certainly it coincided nicely with the big Can-Am, what they call the big Can-Am year, when Dwayne Utek and Utechnique got behind the whole deal and started sponsoring things. And I mean, you played all 10 events. You're from Arizona, you're traveling with the California boys. You look at the names on the lists of those tournaments that played: St. Thomas, the Island, Centennial Park. You've got RJ Jerez, Harold Hampton, the Lissamans, Dan Ginnelly. Like, the list is huge. Steve Valencia.
Yeah. Well, he traveled with me. I didn't travel with the Lissamans.
So that was Willie, right?
Huh?
That was Willie traveled with the Lissamans, right? And it was you and Steve.
Yeah, I mean, we hung out, like, especially in Toronto. We stayed at Andy Frankhauser's. Am I correct? Do you remember him?
Yeah.
The guy was awesome. He had a big house, and he'd let everybody stay. It was
nice.
It was crazy. We'd stay there for a month, and then I ended up becoming pretty good friends with Wallace Kenny, and I started staying with him more. But so go on. I think
a couple of those months in Toronto myself. Those are good months.
Oh, I love that town.
Just for the viewers out there, you start in Pittsburgh. That's where the Can-Am series, and at that time, just to put it in perspective, this isn't just any one kind of regional series. At the time, because UTEC got behind it, it was billing itself as the biggest series of disc golf on the planet at the time. I mean,
Absolutely, it was huge.
Anybody who knew anything, they wanted to be part of that, because hey, they're giving out some serious coin, and we hear some of those questions are kind of good.
Yeah.
So you first of all, you get on the road and you're traveling with Steve Valencia, and you go to Pittsburgh first.
Well, we were probably already on the road before that. I would leave as soon as it got hot here. So usually my first tournament was Raleigh, North Carolina.
Wow.
It was Harold Howard, excuse me.
Carlton Howard.
Yeah. So I think that was probably a couple months or a month, maybe May or something when Pittsburgh came around. Yeah.
Yeah.
for some reason, I remember Valencia winning about 3 tournaments, and Pittsburgh was one of them. But now these weren't probably Can-Am series, because I think Pittsburgh was the first one, but he won 3 tournaments, and then we all went up, the Lissamans and Willie and everybody, we went up to Toronto and hung out for a while.
Well, St. Thomas was first. You played St.
Oh.
Thomas first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember mine. I know I look in the
I know it's a long
who the
time
hell's
ago.
that? Which I'm sure we all do.
But your first experience in Canada. Oh, sorry, Mace, go ahead.
Let me ask a couple quick background questions. So this is 91 you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so when did you said earlier, just you briefly touched on this, and we were going to ask this specifically, but when did you start? What year did you start touring?
I went out and dabbled in '88, and
so almost right away.
Yeah. Well, I've been playing for a few years.
Like
but
86,
back so I do want to say that we were trying to get me last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever, and I was in Cancun or Playa del Carmen. For some reason your feed popped up on my Facebook, and every morning I would go to the gym. I got to stay active, so I sat on a spin bike and rode for an hour and listened to you guys talk with Oates. It was cool, because I don't do anything on social media. So anyhow, I'm sorry, Brian, what were you saying?
Well, I was just curious.
That's really cool.
And that is very cool. And I mean, that was one of the things. There was a lot of parallels between questions we could ask you and questions you could ask Oates too, because you have very similar experiences all the way down the line. But so I'm just curious from because you were one of the originals to tour, correct? Right. I mean, and so tell that too. I mean, I don't want to discount this Can-Am story, but there's a little bit of previous stuff we skipped.
Sam Farron's and those guys were out, Whitlock, before I was they just dabbled. They would go out for a little bit.
Hit 2 or 3 weekends or 4 weekends in a row or something like that.
And so basically back to that, I was, good, but I knew I needed to get better. I needed to go compete in some other areas. So at first, I think it might have been in April, Ploys used to do a tournament in Vegas on a park that's not around anymore. And I ended up beating Randy Amon in a sudden death. And Randy, back in the late 80s, he ruled the West.
Leva used to tell stories about him all the time.
Oh, well, we could always tell stories about him, because you'd stand behind him and go, not a chance, that ain't going in. Clank, and drop in the back corner. He had a very ugly putt that worked so well. So anyhow, back to that, I won a few tournaments. I think I won New Mexico States. And so I told Sue, who was my girlfriend at the time, I'm like, I'm going to take off for a little bit. And I drove over to Dallas, and I believe it was the David Bruner Birthday Classic, and I won it. I ended up winning
I've never even heard of that.
6 tournaments. Cool. So there was Skyline did a big tournament. I mean,
yeah.
In the funny
that was in the ground when I started, for sure.
I just got into town, and it pouring rain all the way from probably wherever the very west of Texas. It rained all the way into Dallas, and I got lost. I barely found my way in, and I remember pulling into the obviously wrong area, and I walk in a place, back in the day with my Atlas. I still would use an Atlas, and it's pouring rain, and I'm lost, and I went to say something to the lady working behind the counter, and she looked at me and goes, "I don't read no map, son." And I just turned around and left. So I was quite intrigued with that, but I ended up, the first round I shot good and was tied with, I believe it was Eugene Barfield, Biff. Sure. And they had a place that was a burger joint, and we all went over. And mind you, I was by myself and I didn't know anybody. I think I knew the McClellans, but sure. And they were there. And I think, and I'm sitting there eating a hamburger, and these guys right next to me are going, "Hey man, you hear this dude's tied with Biff? He's not going to last." And the funny thing is, I think Biff dropped, and then I was tied with Mitch, and then I think I beat Mitch in a final 9 or something.
Nice.
then Hosfeld was there, and he was like, dude, come to New Orleans with me. I'm going there. You can stay in my hotel while I do a gig and stuff. And so I went to Louisiana, won a tournament again. And then Casey was, I believe, the next week. And he was like, you got to go to Kansas City. And we had a disc golfer, Clay Freeman. He's not with us anymore. He won the Kansas City Wide Open 2 years in a row. I want to say maybe mid or like 86, 87. So it was kind of, I was real proud that I ended up winning the event. And then I went back and won it again the next year. So
the Wide Open? Or
yeah. So I won the Wide Open twice, 2 years in a row, which tied Clay.
Nice.
I won the Wide Open 3 times, I think. I think I played it 10 times, and I think I got 3 wins, 3 seconds. Casey, I loved Casey. Not
Yeah,
only
that's a great
people,
vintage town.
but yeah, lots of. So that's when I called then my girlfriend, which ended up being my wife, and said, honey, I'm gonna take off for the summer. And I would send her all the money that was extra, to pay for bills and stuff.
Well, what you were winning, especially at the Kansas City Wide Open, and this is going to the PGA records, 89. You had three wins in a row. KC Wide Open, 440 US. Now it would probably be $4,000.
Yeah.
Mind you, the expenses are
maybe
higher
even
now,
more.
so gas is higher
Well,
too. But
are they still doing the KC Wide Open?
Yeah, it's back on the Pro Tour this year.
Awesome. Really awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no recollection of what's going on. I stay in the background as much as I can. Thank God for Keith to take over the memorial. I'm still heavily involved in it, but I've done my time, and I need to stay in the background. So back to me traveling. Yeah, it was so fun. Oh my God. I enjoyed it. I met so many fun people, but the 4th year, 92, I couldn't take it anymore. There's no way. I can't see how these guys but now they're doing it a full-time job. So I got tired of being on the road. It was definitely, I got to see America. I made a ton of friends. I mean, I could tell so many stories. We would stay at the Rothsteins when Lynn and Rick were married in Columbia, Missouri. I think it's called.
Nice.
And I remember one
that.
time there was the Lissamans, Mike Williams, Sam Ferrens, Crazy John. There must have been 25 people there, just all having a little shindig. And next minute we're all playing. I think Craze probably broke out his trombone or something, and everybody's playing something. Somebody's doing something with a fork on a chair, and it was.
But back in the day, early tour stories, these are exactly what we want to preserve, because it was a different time, a different era, especially because the sport was so small and so cherished. You meet another a serious acolyte of the sport, and you have an instant bond. And so like Bob West did to you, they invite you to stay with you. Anytime you come to Toronto, you stay at my place. Don't go anywhere else. Andy Frankhauser probably said that to you many times.
Oh yeah.
Now it's getting so big that we're losing all of that. But what we want to fear of losing are the very words of someone like yourself who lived through it all in the early days. Yeah. And these stories are pure gold, honestly. Pure gold. So don't hold back in telling any stories, okay?
No, I don't. I just trying to keep them clean.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
I definitely feuded with a couple people because after years, I'm not going to deny that I was just too happy, lucky. And some people, like one is Hammock, it's like you were stealing his milk money is what I would call it. I would say that to him because he wasn't too friendly, and God bless him. He was a very talented golfer, but most people that were like that. One of my stories is Brad loved golf, and so did Valencia. Valencia is a very good golfer. So is Brad. But I can't remember where we were, but me and Steve would usually, if there was some spare time, we were going to the golf course. And after you know, we were lead card and Brad didn't play well. So he was being a little bit of, you know, a baby, which we all can do. But then he comes running over to, somebody told him we were all, there was a foursome going to play golf, and he asked, you know, and he's telling me, I'm not like that when I go play golf. And I was like, are you kidding me?
I can just hear it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, like, dude, are you kidding me? I just spent 3 hours listening to you, you know, get mad because all I did was talk and throw birdies in, and you were having a rough day, which we all had a rough day. But one of the things about like Brent Hambrick, he would tell me, he's like, Jesus Christ, Ginnelly, I could never tell if you were shooting 10 over or 10 down because you were just yapping away. You know, a lot of people, especially in, I'm sure now it's got to be super cool, but back in the day, everybody would kind of talk through maybe backups. You know, hey, so-and-so Valencia's on a freaking 9-hole birdie run or something. Now I play 3 tournaments a year usually, and I'm, you know, and I don't play much, so I kind of stink. And like the Memorial, I barely cash it the last couple of years. But I remember, I think it was last year, this guy was like, I'm like, you guys have fun tomorrow because the cut. And he's like, you're in. I'm like, how do you know I'm in? He's like, because it shows it.
Yeah,
right
I was just gonna say, these guys know every hole. If
Well,
you
yeah,
got, they knew on the
right there
6th
on your
hole. They knew
phone.
on the 2nd hole that you had a 9-hole
I-
birdie streak.
I would
They were
love
counting.
that. I would love that, because another story I like to tell is, I think it was 2002. I had pretty much kind of really, by early 2000s, my kids were getting teenagers, and I didn't play much golf. I didn't play much tournaments. And Kansas City had, I think, the 30th annual, and they begged me to come. Rick did, I believe. I can't remember who it was. Anyhow, I go play the tournament. I hadn't played a tournament in a while, and I made the lead card, and they just started doing Swope X Gold, I think they called it, it was a really bad setup. And it was, lead card was me, Brinster, Avery, Sean Sinclair. Yeah. And so anyhow, we get to the last hole, and there was probably 250 people on each side of the hole, and it's a hard hole. I hardly ever would birdie it. I was a good putter, but I couldn't throw it all that far. And they looked at the card and they said, so I think it was me and Avery and Steve were tied. Or no, I think we were tied, but we were one back of Ron. So they said, you have to birdie this hole. And I think Avery and Steve sprayed their shot. They could way out throw me. I can still remember, you know, Avery's probably 19. And I'm playing, you know, and I'm 40, 41, and I'm looking by, you know, behind him, his calves were probably as big as my hips. He was a monster. Well, to make the story a little shorter, they didn't birdie, and I hit about a 50-foot jump putt. And I was just, you know, I ran into the crowd, and the good old days of when you knew how to, when you had control of your game. I was, the crowds, you know, expressing their, you know, their whatever, cheering you on.
Amazement.
And I'm like trying to calm down because I knew we were going to go into playoff. And then they came, and when we went to the scorer tent, I think it was Rick, he's like, looks and goes, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. You were still one behind Ron Russell. So Ron won the tournament. I got second. And, you know, they were apologizing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I have no problem. I as long as I played well, I did not care if I got 40th place. They told me I had to birdie the last hole to make a playoff sudden death, and I did. I was proud of that. First place was not. I also remember Slate telling me that I think the first year, he's like, you sure got to get tired of getting a lot of seconds, as I was learning. And Slate Paul was a golfer that a lot of people don't know. That was very skilled. I know you guys have some knowledge of him, but I looked at him when he told me that. I'm like, I've got a lot of seconds, but you know, I mean, I'm constantly cashing. So you won and then got 15th, and then, you know, but stuff like that. I was consistent. But
Hell
once
yeah.
again, it's always, it's good fun and humor, and I know not everybody could take it, but I was good at taking it and dishing it out. Yeah, I
Well,
just
everybody looks at that differently too, and I find that interesting too. Like long time ago when was running tournaments, several guys said to me, "I don't care about that second place. I don't care about the second place." And so I was like, "All right, well, I'm just making first place trophies from now on."
yeah.
And I was giving out metal minis, because there's purpose, there's use for it, as opposed to just another trophy on the wall. But I think that everybody's got a different opinion of it, and it's definitely different on the men's side and the women's side too. But the women, depending on the trophy, care a little bit more about a second and a third, but some of them don't want any part of that either. So it's interesting to hear that, though.
Yeah, I think that, being fortunate enough to play a lot, after once I settled down, I got rid of a lot of trophies. Here at Spinners, where I'm at, our shop, we have a little glass counter. I can't think of the name of it, but I have tournaments that are super special to me. And one, I can't remember
Showcase.
what year I won one year the wide open, and we're doing the ceremonies, and Lynn dominated that back there. She probably won the wide open a lot. And she's like, I wish I had a first place open. So we swapped. So I probably still have it. I have a Kansas City wide open women's trophy. And she
Nice.
took my
Well, she's so cool. I got to hang out with her at Hal's wedding about 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago now. And I hadn't hung out with her in such a long time. She's so much fun.
Yeah,
She's just
I
got
feel,
that fire.
yeah, I know. And I feel guilty because I drove to Chicago to bring my dog to my daughter and take a month off. And yeah, I rolled through Kansas City, and I didn't, I talked to her, but yeah, I didn't stay with her. She's one awesome lady.
Yeah,
But
without a
it's
doubt.
cool to have some of these trophies, because I did, when I came home from my vacation, I noticed somebody tagged me on a link. There was a Huntsville Rocket City Super Tour for
Yeah.
91, and they're like, they linked me to it, and they said, Dano, I think this is you. And I looked at it, and I'm going, oh yeah. And then I saw Levon mentioning, he didn't have my name in there, but he said everybody's name and crazy. And I'm like, I email, or no, I think I messaged on Facebook, which I don't do very often. And I said, that's not Craze, that's me. Because Uptime had sponsored us too. Well, Craze got Valencia and I on there. And
Yeah.
I had so many people back in the day, I didn't have the big glasses because my eyes are good, but everybody would come up to me and go, hey, Craze, what's going on? I'm like, I'm not Craze.
Oh, because you had that hair though too,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, see,
Probably
I never knew you with all. I mean, I've only known you with short hair or no hair.
Yeah. So that Rocket City Super Tournament, that was to that date your biggest win. You got $1,320 from that.
Right. And that was 1990.
1990, and that was the
Go ahead.
first year that the Climo, like that's the ascendancy of Climo, and you beat him by 5.
Oh, let me tell you, nobody really knew me. Just a few people, Wise Cup, and a few people. Everybody talked. I'm walking away with, the first time I won over $1,000 and a really nice trophy. They gave me a full 1983 Huntsville Worlds package. I got the shuttle puppy, I got everything. But in everybody, you could just hear everybody going, Kenny shot this, Kenny shot that, because he was, he was the talk of the town. Most of us, we were lucky. I beat him a good amount of times, but nowhere like, I mean, he wanted it more than most of us. I like to just, I don't know. I'm very competitive. Don't get me wrong, but
Well, the year before in Iowa at the Worlds, you finished 4th in the Worlds.
I hit a 40-foot putt on the last hole to beat Kenny.
And
it's the only time I ever beat him in the
RJ.
Worlds. And
That's right.
I gotta admit, though, for Kenny's sake, the last hole, I think he had a bad break. I can't remember, but I think he might have cut through a fence. We played on a ball golf course. Cincinnati first started doing it, and then I think the next year Iowa did it. the finals were on a golf course. So he threw a big roller, and I think it snuck through a fence like a bad break. But I still ended up, I hit a long putt. Yeah.
What year was that?
89.
89.
Iowa Worlds. I'll never forget it. It was something else. For one, I don't know.
I'd say the same thing about the 04 Iowa Worlds too. You know, it was something else. I mean,
yeah, I was done by then, but I heard great things.
Holy cow, that was great. I haven't
That
heard
was
any
the
good
first-
complaint.
That was the
valid
first time
complaints.
Mace Man and Mr. B had a good times party.
Ooh,
Oh man, it was good times. Yeah, that was.
Iowa Worlds.
Yeah, we had a little hospitality suite at one of the host hotels and stuff. It was awesome.
you know, that stuff goes wild, and in 89 people were ripping it out of the ground at Hickory Hills, and we're just going, you know, that stuff's not going to do you anything.
Rope.
Yep, it's good for tying some string together. So bailing.
So one thing I want to ask you, you're a very long-standing and proud long-standing member of team and proud thrower of Discraft. Can you talk to us about when your association began, but maybe even before that, what was your first Discraft disc and how did you even get into throwing Discraft?
Well, my first Discraft disc was, like most of us, was a Phantom, because it was one of the first discs that had nylon in it, and it was a good turnover disc and a good roller disc. You know, I obviously, as you guys could tell, I'm a little bit of a squirrel. I bounce around a lot, but I remember the first time I saw a person lay down a roller, I was like, what? That's cheating. And next, you know, within a year, we're all smoking rollers. So the Phantom was a really good roller disc. But you know, so as the game was so young, I just we weren't getting much support from the other, you know, they didn't have to. So as we were on the road, we wanted our throwing stock, and I met Kenner on the first year I went out. I probably met him in '88, and I think the Cruiser just came out. I think I remember being in Banklick or something and throwing the Cruiser, and you know, it was really pretty much a pretty high tech disc for that day. It was made out of kind of a racer plastic, but it just had a really fast, sharp edge. But you know, it took a little while. So, like Jim was throwing Lightning, I tried Lightning, and I just wasn't happy with it. Plus, I'm a big, I don't know how to really explain it, but you know, God bless Steve, but he was an ornery man, and you know, and had his issues. So I didn't really. James Kenner, outside of Tim Selinsky, was probably one of the epitome of a very, very good-hearted man back in the day. And I once I spent a little bit of time with him, I knew that I wanted to, you know, and he had only had 4 or 5 discs out, and he took care of us for a long time. I was getting sponsored, you know, me and well, actually Slate Paul was first, and then me, and then Valencia, and he would give us anything we wanted. And then even when I started backing off playing, he would just tell me, where do you want to go? You're going to Japan? He'd buy your ticket. He'd do this, he'd do that. That's one of the ways how Memorial got built, the old Bob West. I was getting, I don't know, 700-800. I don't know. I'm not really good at paying attention. I was getting a lot of discs as a sponsor. And when I quit touring, I wanted to bring everybody here because I wasn't really seeing. I mean, I was still playing the Worlds and stuff, but it didn't matter to me because I wasn't on my game. I didn't play all the time.
Right.
So that segue of the Bob West, I started selling the discs that James Discraft would give me, and raising money to pay the tournaments, to build the purse. And I am going to tote, and I'm sure there's going to be a few people that would disagree, but we were the first tournament to really pay fat. You know, I mean, Circular Skies, John Houck was doing some amazing stuff. But nobody, if you won $1,000, second place was typically going to be, 400 or something. And so back to Discraft, like I said, he was just so helpful, and he did a lot of stuff for the game, as in just what they've done now. Even though, the signing of Macbeth, he had to approve it. It wasn't like he went out and got him. It's his team. Amazing. But to me, me wanting to throw Discraft, I wanted to kind of help prove that there were other companies and everybody deserved, a lot of people tell me nowadays, when you talk to them, they're like, yeah, too bad the money wasn't that good. And I'm like, I probably wouldn't have. It's getting so corporate and big. I probably wouldn't have been all that into it. But it's so awesome to see these young men making the money that they are.
And women, I mean,
yeah, and women. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Both. I can't remember her name, but Tatar.
Yeah, Kristen.
They both won in person over 100,000. Her and Ricky, right?
Last year.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
So that's not even, endorsements. That has to set a signal to so many people, if you put your time in, stay solid.
Yeah.
So basically, in what, 89, you were started being sponsored by Discraft then at that point?
Yeah.
And so, and when did you start being the man and you and Sue, basically, obviously, I mean, let me rephrase that. When did Sue start being the woman of the Bob West Memorial? I mean, when did you all take
once
that
she realized that this wasn't a fad I was going through? She knew I loved the game as much as I loved her, and she'd probably say, maybe you loved it a little bit more. It wouldn't be true, but yeah. So that was, by probably the mid 90s. So we took over we were running the Bob West, and then by 93, 94, we were building the purse, and then I want to say about 96, 97, we used to do it Memorial Day. It's pretty warm here, just like it is in Texas. And Memorial Day, it's usually going to be around 105. And then so we moved it into the winter, and then it exploded.
Oh, and you'll never not fill because of that time frame alone, right, and the snowbirds, but the tradition and the good times involved with that event, obviously. I mean,
I usually
so of the 35. What do you got? 25 of the 30? Isn't it 35 years old? Wasn't it 35 this last year?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure when I made the trophies, it was 35, or maybe it was last year, not this year. Maybe it's 36. But so of those, you've done 25
Bob
of them.
Died in 87. I think he died right shortly after I had met him. Yeah. I'm sorry. What did you say?
So you probably
how many have you done
of the 35?
Yeah.
How many have I what?
How many have you been the TD for?
Oh gosh, at least 20. But really, Sue was the TD.
Wow.
I mean, I was the one who made the final calls and everything else. But yeah, I don't know. I don't pay attention to a lot of that stuff.
You know what Aretha says, behind every strong man stands a strong woman. So
yeah,
she was keeping it real for sure. And it was because of the two of you working together, whoever was the brains of it, but we'll give you equal credit. You built it up, you took it over. It was a kind of a small regional event, about 50 people max, and now it's like the premier event on the calendar. People put that, like, they fixed that. They know that in their mind. They know each year March is going to start with the memorial. And
I mean,
that's you guys who did that.
Jeff Turquois intentionally, leaning on my ear and I still remember him saying, hey, I want to build this event right behind you guys. Now they're, tenfold. It's awesome. It's awesome to see. We don't have any problem. And us not being part of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, we might lose a few people, top names, but we still fill up, and it's good times.
Well, yeah, still had a big, I mean, in all divisions.
Yeah.
You got a great turnout in all divisions.
One of the things that I remember hearing, that I listened to the podcast that you gave to the Roots of Flight, about the origins of the memorial, and you were talking about one of the reasons why you kept it off of the pro tour was because you wanted to be able to play and be the TD at the same time, or
Yeah.
at least, you know, part of the TD team. And, you know, when I said this to Jim Oates, and there's only two people that I say this about, but when I talk to players who are starting to come up, and a lot of times when you're in a newer disc golf zone, the best player has to also be the promoter.
Right.
And a lot of times that's a heavy burden to be a good player and focus also on the promotion. Some people are natural promoters, some people are natural players. And
Right.
I often give the advice, you've got to choose, who do you want to be? Do you want to be the player, or do you want to be the promoter? Because in my mind, there's only two people in the world that are top shelf promoters and top shelf players. That's you and Jim Oates. And both of you have run worlds.
Yeah.
Both of you run huge, amazing tournaments, and both of you have won at the highest level. So,
Well, thank
you know,
you.
that's
That's, yeah.
it's not easy to
Rare
do.
company.
It, you know, granted, you bet, absolutely. The times have changed where you couldn't do it, but yeah, for a long time, I was paying the memorial, the Bob West was at the time we were paying so good. The PDGA kept saying, you can't be a C tier, you can't be a C tier, and I'm like, screw you, I can do whatever I want, you know. But finally we gave in, and but I still played for quite a bit. So yeah, but I'm gonna be a little jealous. I mean, not jealous, selfish. It's you know, we do it for the love of the game, but we also do it so we can, you know, I like to compete. And it was also one of the only times where I didn't, I have a lot of maybe too much sympathy. I mean, I'm never going to be over losing my wife. She went really, really quick, and she was the backbone of my family, and we struggled. And none of us would ever deny that we don't still struggle from her loss. But it was, you know, it was just even though she did all of the background stuff, I dealt with most of the TD stuff, and in the 3 hours or 4 hours I was playing, nobody could mess with me. So it was like a safe zone.
Nice. Yeah.
There was no, you know,
Get your
because
hideout in.
even though we own a store and sell frisbees, I'd go in the lake and try to get your disc out. I'm not, you know, going, oh yeah, here comes some more money. So I would go hide after my rounds. I would go do paperwork and stay awake because I don't. Fountain Hills could kill people, and I feel so bad when I'd listen, even if I was just walking by Duke's and some guy's whining because he lost his, you know, he lost 15 discs that round or something. Myself, I've played that course, you know, in tournaments and end up the last 3 holes throwing a freaking putter because you threw
There's
everything.
certain places where you just got to know that you better have spares. And I mean, like, I don't mean like
Yeah,
for example, the first time Nolan ever went to Rock Hill with me, he showed up with the discs that were in his bag, and I go, where's your spares? And he goes, Bubba, this is all the discs I own. And I was like, we're gonna have to change that as soon as we get to Rock Hill, you know. And he went and picked discs out, and he came back with this many, with a handful, like this many. And I go, dude, that's not enough. He hadn't really been to the course yet.
But back
And
then,
he goes,
didn't carry that many. I mean, that was a golf bag right there.
yeah, but and you know, and he was thinking he was being too greedy. And he goes, well, what if I get too many? And then Harold goes, you're gonna have to get a box, right? And you know, and it's like the same kind of story. You go out there, and that next day, he probably lost 6 of those new ones.
Yeah.
You know, because it just happens. You know, I mean, you got to figure it out. And but yeah, I understand what you're saying. That's really that's some great information. And you know, one of the highlights of my entire touring, obviously, was being on The Price is Right. But one of the unknown highlights about that is that all of us jammed into your house on Monday morning after the memorial and watched that episode for the first time together, like 25, 30 people.
And I was out doing something.
And you were golf working.
Remember,
it was
I came walking in the house, and I'm like, Jesus, because everybody stayed at everybody's house. Yeah,
everybody, all the monitoring.
Everybody, yeah. The Winnie
that was
crew,
awesome. That was epic. Yeah. I also missed, like, I don't remember when it started, but Sue invited me to breakfast on Mondays. I went to a bunch of those breakfasts on Mondays with you guys, and I missed that a lot. You know, I mean, like, that's just one of those things that's not part of the memorial anymore.
No, and that was a super special time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we
Epic.
turned it into playing golf on Mondays, and then that went away after COVID. It's just too much. All the golf courses are insanely overpriced nowadays. But yeah, you were in the lucky part of our life, the super good part of it.
Yeah, that was good times. I remember staying a couple times at your house too. And when I was a touring player, like with Bomba and Stevie too, like they'd show up at 11:30 or 12 the night before tee off and everything. Like
yeah, my kids
for a few days.
My kids would charge them. They would pay for the room. So we used to go stay at the hotel.
That's right. I remember that.
We stayed at the Three Palms. It was called the Inn Suites. They gave us, because we'd fill the hotel, they gave us a jacuzzi president suite. My kids had a blast, and then everybody took over my house. So even when you won Jeopardy, I don't think we were staying there. But yeah, I think, God, I can't remember how many years, maybe 7 or 8 years. Finally, Sue was like, when the kids got older, this is over. They're not anymore. Yeah. But once again, good times. So I'm very proud of being with Discraft for sure. All the companies are awesome. I don't even know what's going on nowadays with so many manufacturers, but I think the background of James and Gail supporting in the early days really made a huge difference. I mean, they influenced, the KC Pro disc. The people might disagree with it, but it was
that's true. I know about that too.
It was I remember having the talk with him, and he, Kenner was willing to give him money, and I was like, wow, I don't know, and a good amount of money for at that day, and I was like, wow, I think it was 6 or 7 worlds that he'd won. I just said, I don't know if that, what if he doesn't win?
It was 96. That was in 96.
Yeah, because the special edition came out and it actually transferred kind of into KC. But James was that cool. He's like, I don't care if he's, I just want him to get paid for what he's doing. And changed a lot of things. The KC stuff is still on the shelf. It's Climo is massively a legacy, and occasionally I do snoop, and people are always like, yeah, but they didn't have to play against freaking all the, true, there was only a third of the fraction of the players, but I can guarantee Kenny would be, he wouldn't have won as many, but he'd be right there with Paul and everybody else. I mean,
Yeah, but even when he won the last one, I mean, what was this fastest disc on the market? There wasn't anything like they
probably
have
T-Bird. Probably
yeah.
T-Bird.
Yeah, it was like KC T-Bird, or maybe a Gazelle, or no, there was a T-Bird, I would imagine.
T-Bird. But a T-Bird, so I threw the XL, they were similar. I mean, we were throwing them 4 1/4 easy, so if we had a destroyer or a nuke or something.
These guys are putting them in orbit now, though.
Yeah. But I think we all would be if we were young and throwing that technology.
For sure. We'll be the grown-up playing.
I'm not impressed by how far you throw, even though it is awesome. What's impressive is when you have to step up and slam a putt.
Well, look at you.
I don't watch any video stuff. I don't watch anything that goes on. Occasionally I'll see some on the background, like with the James Conrad throw in. I came to the shop on a Sunday, and my son watches it all. He's like, you've got to see this, Dad. And I was like, wow. And not only that it was, to tie, but he threw a turnover, because it's so easy to crutch to a sidearm. And I don't blame everybody, but
he doesn't throw sidearms though. That's one of the things
he doesn't
recently. Yeah,
I don't know.
He prefers, like, I saw him on Waco. In Waco, he had it was him. There's 2 guys. They were like, there's 2 guys on tour that don't go to the sidearm, and they were like, he was one of them. And he had the most awkward spot. He hit his, like, I don't know how he made his delivery and didn't just chop the tree down that he was right up against, but he pulled it off. But they say that he never. They said on that broadcast that he doesn't go to the sidearm. So
who's the second one?
I don't remember, because I was just like still flabbergasted by the whole thing. I was like, going, are you serious? Like, you're looking at like this is a shoot through the woods. It's going from, it plays left to right,
Mhm.
and it's perfect. It's perfect for a righty flick, and he's up against the left side, and like he didn't have a patent pending stance. He had nothing. Like he was still went with the backhand and lived with the results.
Paul, I
So
think I've been talking so much, and so is Mace. You wanted to interject on something?
Oh,
You
it's
probably
just a
forgot.
wonderful, no,
Probably
it's a
forgot.
wonderful ocean
Well,
to be
so
bobbing along for sure.
I used to play a lot because Ricky lives here now, golf with him. I don't play as much these days. I've been really battling some injuries. I still work. I still hang sheetrock occasionally. I'm self-employed, so I can control how much I work, but I'm high strung and I like to work. It helps me sleep at night. But back to I remember one time, I've only played a couple rounds of disc golf with Ricky, but we were golfing, a bunch of us or something, and somebody was asking me some questions, and I think the power grip is overrated. I think most people throw it too often, and I've never thrown a power grip, and I throw a modified fan, and I remember Ricky saying, I don't either. Of course, he's built like Scott Stokely and doesn't need to, but I mean, you get more control with it. I'm not saying people shouldn't throw a power grip. I'm just saying I see guys putting with a power grip, and you just don't have as much feel or touch with that. But
I remember Scott Riley putted with a power grip, and 1998, I was doing the Super Tour at the time, and happened to fall in with Riley and Harold Hampton and a bunch of those guys.
yeah,
And right before the 1998 Minnesota Majestic, I saw Riley with such confidence throwing these power grip putts in that I was like, I'm going to change my putt to that right before the tournament.
yeah.
I'll leave it to you to figure out what disastrous level of results awaited me.
Well,
However, I did get an ace in that tournament, and Juliana was on my card, and she didn't pay up.
we're gonna have to talk to her about that.
Just
Earl Weaver
saying,
was watching tonight.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I was doing a lot of exercising when I was listening to your podcast, and I know she was in the room, but I don't think.
No, we didn't.
No, we
call
did
her
them
out on that
separate
one.
so that they both have
Yeah.
their hour.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did Juliana a couple weeks previous to that, and because I mean, like I mean, we can still do another hour-long show with either one of them and you for that
Oh,
matter. I mean,
yeah.
there's
Oh,
not.
yeah,
I mean,
we just scratched the surface here with
we
you.
can't
Bob.
really get enough into it
Right.
in an hour.
Right. Yeah, that's why you invite them back in a year or two. If most of us, if we're still around. I gotta interject too, though, that I being in construction, I was 20, probably my second year in construction. I'm on a scaffold, taping in a cathedral ceiling in a church. I'm 30 feet up, and the scaffold broke on me. And I dropped 30 feet straight down with my arms up. I'm holding a taping gun that's called a bazooka. I'm taping a ceiling before you finish it. And I shattered both of my heels. I spent a year in casts. And it was just funny listening to, I mean, it's not funny to anybody getting hurt, but this Jim explaining about breaking his feet.
Mm.
I had to learn to walk again through rehab after wearing casts. I mean, I wore a cast on both legs for 11 months. I was in the hospital for 2 months, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
But you still run up on the T-pad though.
Yeah.
But you've kind of got a modified run too, though.
Pardon?
Your run up's a little bit modified and
yeah, I don't really do much
as well.
It's a hop.
It's like a 3-step hop kind of thing.
Yeah. Jim's a big man. Oh, he doesn't, I mean, it worked out perfect for him. He still bombs it, and Mitch Mack, I played, I got to play with him, and Mitch even more. It's just, I don't understand how they can keep doing it. Mitch
because they keep doing it.
Throwing as hard as he can. Yeah, you're probably right, but man, it's like back in the day watching Craig Gleva throw a disc. You were like, God, I better make sure I'm an extra 10 feet away from his backhand because he's gonna knock you out.
Yeah.
He just had so much
atomic snap. I mean, that dude. That's I mean, we could tell. It's too bad. It's too bad he's not around still, because we'd have him on the show for sure.
Lave you are for sure. Well, listen, we don't want to take up more of your time. Thank you for taking already so much of your time to hang out, chat
Yeah,
with us, and
my
drop
pleasure.
some wisdom bombs on our listeners out there. I know you've said some great stories, but you've lived the great stories, and so you don't even need to say anything. You just need to just keep smiling and bringing that positivity, and I mean the whole history of disc golf, certainly for most of the West Coast, is right there in your office with you and everything behind it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us in. It's one of the, I just want to touch really on back on being a TD and competing. None of us wanted to do it. I didn't want, I wanted to just play, but we had to, just like Jim.
Right.
I'm sure he loved the game, and he knew he was in a position. To me, I didn't want to own a store. I don't work here yet. I'd like to, and I hope someday, but I opened the store because I wish that when I had as I would say, the tourniquet on my arm, I wish I had a disc golf store back in the day. It's so cool, to see people
Yeah.
come in and immediately they start, and I know there's tons of shops. I've been to the KC, the DD one that Pete and them have, but
Oh yeah, for sure.
come in and they just start doing like a Facebook video of all the stuff. So anyhow.
Well, dude, yeah, and that's one thing that's really cool. I mean, I've said this to several times to Keith and to Alex as well, but it's really cool that Alex is as engaged as he is at this point too, and I've been really impressed the last 2 times that I've spent much time there.
Yeah.
Just because I overhear him, they come and ask him questions, and he knows where to send them. He knows whether it's this brand or that brand, and then beyond that, I think I was just gonna say too, that man, your store's in really good hands. Like Keith, Ashley, Alex, everybody you got working there, great folks. I really, really enjoy the way that they treat me when I come every year for the event. It's one of those things. It's like, man, do I got time for this? And I'm like, do I not have time for this? Of course I got time for this. I'm coming again, and
even though your beard's not as red as it used to be, Alex is like a bro,
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I still remember in South Bend when he was just a little guy, and he was like
He was
wearing
3
my
years old.
shins out, just kicking the shit out of my shins, and I was like holding them by the top of his head, and he just kept kicking the shin.
One of those ones where they're
Oh yeah, it was like that, but he wasn't trying to swing. He was successfully kicking me in the shins, and
oh my
it's just one of those things. It's like, you little rat, you're lucky. You're lucky your dad's your dad. I'm gonna take you out back.
Yes, Alex has done. I mean, everybody here at Spinners is, I mean, we wouldn't be here without Keith, and then it funnels down to Alex, and he's gone through a lot in his life. I didn't lose my mom till she was almost 90. So, I'm real proud of him too. I probably don't tell him enough, but I try to tell him when I can. But anyhow, so I don't I appreciate it.
Definitely, dude. Definitely. Well, I'm
Well,
looking forward to stopping by in July. I'm probably on the way home
Yeah.
because I'm probably gonna have to show those trophies off while I'm up there in Flagstaff.
I hope
Get to work. I heard Keith told me, because I wouldn't even play a tournament if I didn't have people. Like a lot of tournaments, I used to run them, and they'll just put me in because I wouldn't. I'm not one. Nowadays tournaments fill up like that. But
Did they just put you in for that one?
he did tell me that I got an invite. I didn't know if I'd get an
Awesome.
invite. I don't play enough, so now I gotta, but Flagstaff is so deep in snow right now. I was in Prescott. My dad lives just south of there, and the whole mountain was covered white. So it's gonna be quite interesting.
Wow.
Anyhow, thanks a lot, guys.
My man, I hope it's not another 20 years until I see you again. But all the best down the road. Keep doing what you do. You are just locking it down. You've always been one of Arizona's, at least if not the best player, one of the best players, and certainly the best promoter Arizona could ever boast. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for promoting the sport and leaving it better than how you found it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love you, Dan, man. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
I don't know if I know how to shut it off.
You can
Should be
probably
down at the
hit
bottom right.
Bottom right, it's red.
Yep.
Yep.
Have a good adios, gentlemen.
Have a good one, Ralph. All right, dude, that was a good one.
That was a
We
great
did.
one.
That's it's like we ran over 18 minutes, and there's still plenty of things that we could have covered and carried on. And but I will
Oh,
say this: we had a lot of different people tune in tonight. And like I don't know if Kevin Lebowski's still there, but he's an old friend of mine from back east. That he was tuned
Kevin
in, and I hadn't
LaBosse.
talked to him in a while. Randy Shukar's tuned in. Joey Carlisle, Courtney McCoy, Kevin's wife. Brad Schick tuned in, Jim Tobish, Randy Sukar. We had a lot of folks. There was a bunch of others too that were on earlier, but I don't remember all of them because this just says who's on right now. But yeah, we had a good show. That was great.
That
And
was
again, folks, if you're still paying attention and you're wondering what we're up to, we're gonna have Kevin McCoy on next week. We're gonna have Jennifer Allen on the following week. We're gonna have Brad Schick the week after that, and then Jonathan Poole. We're gonna revisit the or talk with him about what's going on 6 months out for the 25th U.S. Disc Golf Championship to round up April. And it's gonna be flexible timing. Some of it's gonna have something to do with some hockey, some playoff hockey.
and
Yeah, for both of us.
also we may either for the next show or the show after that, we're gonna revive our playoff picks. And this time we're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
track
that's one
it.
thing we didn't talk about. So here's another good.
Yeah.
This is a good after hours thing to talk about. We are gonna revive the picks, and we haven't decided who, but we're probably gonna let 2 or 3 other people get in on it with us too.
Kevin
So
McCoy, what kind of hockey team would he be behind?
well, the Atlanta Flames, of course. I mean, he lives in Georgia. Um,
Oh, but doesn't the sun set on his Oklahoma white ass?
oh, he's been living in Georgia forever. So,
No,
like
I
I
know.
said earlier, I don't know if he's going to be the one to get in there, but um, we'll 2 or 3
So maybe
people will show their
let's
heads.
let's start with him. Let's just
Like Jay
start with him.
Jalonen was on earlier. I'm sure he's going to want to get in on some of that.
Juicy J. Yes. He
Geiger,
was the one who was
Geiger,
asking
Geiger.
us whatever happened to our picks from last year. We never followed up on. So
Well, I think I got it on the board somewhere still because I mean, kind of lazy.
see,
And
this
it's
is the
dry
great thing
erase.
about being lazy is you're a natural archivist. The records are kept. Yeah, that was I think, Ginnelly, first of all, he's one of the most awesome dudes that I've ever had a chance to meet, and one of the top level tournament directors and players at the same time. I defy you to come up with a top 3 list of that doesn't have Jim Oates and Dan Ginnelly somewhere within your 1, 2, 3 spot.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna gather it from all of time, yeah, of course. I mean, and even still, like you've said before, that's not an easy feat. I don't know how people. I mean, I don't know. I know that Smitty does it a lot in Wichita. I know that Tony Ellis, I think is his name, from Virginia back in the day. He used to do that a lot and play well as well. And I don't know, I just how that feels, man. I think like Smitty does this. I saw him do this at like a 1-day C tier. It might even have been a 1-round tournament, but I think it was a 2-rounder. But Brandon and I went over there to swap out some KDGA gear with him, and he goes, "Yeah, second place, blah blah blah, and winning again, me." And it's just like, how does that feel? It's kind of like, how do you say that without being like coming off dickish? You know what I'm saying? Oh, by the way, yeah, I
Yeah.
beat y'all again.
So one of the things, to apropos Dan and also Jim Oates, one of the people that I used to say, or that I remember clearly saying, you can either focus your efforts on being a top level player or pivot to be a promoter, was this guy in Montreal who was named Pat. He was like my bizarro B, if you will.
Okay.
And he used to run little events, not even PDJ C tiers, like just local, area, regional, tiny little events. He would get a lot of sponsorship. And a lot of this is from his friends or, people with their players practice that they don't want anymore. And so they just throw into the purse. but he would have draws or prizes or challenges or whatever, and he would always compete and be in those, and he would win a lot of times the prizes that he was responsible for gathering that he was giving out. And he wouldn't do it in all like, oh yeah, me again. He would be like, yeah, me, and he'd be bouncing around like this, and he's like, what a fucking bag.
He doesn't see the conflict of interest there. Yeah.
I mean, talk about blind spots. Holy cow. Maybe he got better after I told him he could be a good player or a promoter, but not both.
Yeah.
He
Well,
ain't
and
no
plus
Dan
that stuff,
Ginnelly, that's for sure.
that was all your stuff to begin with. What do you mean you're trying to give it away? That's
know.
not, that's weird.
I know. I mean, charging people an entry fee to win the prizes that you won. That's
Yeah, I mean that's different than running the weekly and putting your money into the ace pot just like everybody else. That's completely different, you know.
totally.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, you bang an ace, then good for you. And hey, you know, what's funny is actually I went and ran the weekly one time for my folks back in the day in Hutchinson, Kansas, on the Christmas break, and it might have even been, I think it was after I stopped touring as well. I think that they, you know, it was Christmas time, so my mom's family was coming over. It was her turn to host, and they had the turkey and the smoker and all that kind of stuff, and they were also responsible. My mom and dad were responsible for running the weekly, and I think it was on Saturday afternoon. And we were like, me and Brandon were like, okay, well, if we get out of trying to be cooks, which we aren't, although Brandon's gotten pretty good at smoking, he's gotten really good at smoking meat and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong,
Good to
but
know. Good to know.
they were like, hey, if you want to go down there and run that for us, then that would be great. And I was like, yeah, sure, we can do that. That's not a problem. I wanted to play around the golf anyways. And so we went down there, and they go, oh, by the way, you can't run at the ace pot unless you pay the ace pots that you've missed. You know how they have sometimes some clubs are vested in it, right? So you could only win a portion of it. And I was like, yeah, what are the chances of me hitting an ace? And guess who hit an ace? In fact, I think that might have been my last ace. I haven't had another one in on a course, like on an official hole. But yeah, I threw the easiest hole on the course. I threw that thing right in the heart, and it stayed.
How much would you have had to put in to be in for the ace pot?
$38 or something like that, or 40. It
And
wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot, but it was more than like if you played it, like how many times have you played rounds like that and you're like, okay, well, I forgot to get the ace pot, so what? You know, and most of the time you don't hit it.
Well,
but guess what? I'm always gonna, you know, if I'm paying an entry fee and they're offering an ace pot, I'm paying the ace pot too. And I laugh at people. And you know, it's funny. I'll say that. I'll be like, give them a little B-ism, and I'll go, oh, so Mr. B's hitting an ace pot, hitting the ace today. He's not getting in the ace pot. I was like, I'll pay your ace pot. Here you go. I'll pay your ace pot and I'll split it with you.
I've hit the ace pot after not having been in the ace pot. I've hit an ace in a tournament and been like, why didn't I? It's like $2. Why don't you?
Even if it's $5.
Even if it's $5. I am not one of those who have hit a lot of aces in tournaments, so
I am one of those that rang up a couple of ace pots, a couple of fat ones.
But you hit those in weeklies, minis, right?
Yeah.
Like league type things. For those of you who are
shoot, I hit one in what's the name of that little Lewiston? I hit one in Lewiston one time when we went over there on a Wednesday night.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've hit a bunch of aces like that, dude.
Did you get paid at Lewiston?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because Lewiston, for those who don't know, that's just right across the border from Niagara Falls, Niagara on the Lake, I should say, in Ontario. That's just on the American side, old school Can-Am place, and they always use
good times too.
Draw for their weeklies.
Their weeklies in the summer are fun, big time. Yeah. Buffalo's too. Those weeklies in Buffalo are fun as well. And
anytime you get the home of the Wild Wing, you know it's going to be fun.
What's that guy's name there?
Derek Reed.
No, well, the Reed brothers, but no, the guy that has a super tan that was the promoter there. He has a store there, I believe now. He's got like a mini course. Yeah, Doug Opiella. One of my buddies came home.
Super tanned.
Stu, he is, right? I mean, Like he's like Tan Mom's husband or something. No offense, Doug. You know, if you're listening or later on, I mean,
all
but
the
yeah,
love
one of
to
my
Doug.
buddies came. One of my buddies came back. I think he went to the Vermont Worlds and he stopped through there on the way home a couple of years ago, and he had a couple of minis from Doug's. Doug has like a permanent mini course, right? Do you know
He
about
has,
that?
he has a course. He has a full course too.
Yeah, and but like I know how much you like mini courses, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, he's got a course in a store in the whole 9 yards, from what I understand. So I'll have to get by there one of these days too.
There are so many places you need to get by, dude. You could just be permanently on the road.
Uh,
Bob
it's,
Harris also has a championship mini course on his property.
is that right?
He moved out of St. Thomas, and apparently he's got a piece of land. He's invited me, and I have a standing invite. We have to get Bob Harris on the show.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So hey,
But
since it's like the crack of 9 over here, I'm gonna go ahead and kill the live feed because you know, we're well into the after hours part of this,
Okay.
and I want a beer.
I'm gonna go get some ice.
All right. Yeah.
Apparently we're still recording. I don't know if anybody out there in virtual land is still with us. It's happening. It's been a good run so far. I think Mason and I are almost closing in on not quite a year yet, but hopefully we're gonna ramp up the amount of guests, the amount of weekly frequency, so we can have more content.
Yeah, I
More
think
after
we're
hours.
close to a year, aren't we?
I feel like it's close to a year, right? When did we start?
Well, I find this file in the spring of 22, the Good Times hourglass that I made.
Right.
So yeah, we're probably at a year. It's got to be right around here because you know, I mean, like, well, you know, one of the things that I've really just in the last month or so, really in the last 2 months, I've kind of come to realize that, man, dude, I spent a lot of time in the last 4 years going to Kansas and back, you know, and I'm not saying that with any regret at all. I mean, at all, but it's really apparent. Like, um, I'm still a little fatigued from it, some I think, as well as just like fully aware of like all the half-done projects at the shop and shit like that, like art projects and stuff that I'm gonna hopefully in the next month or so get a lot to the plate of, I should say. So it's, you know, I mean, even the way that I was able to, like, what little drips of time I was able to give to the show was pretty drippy, you know, and the, you know,
Oh, yeah. Well,
and
I
that,
mean,
you know, and it, just like lots of things that I was trying to keep up with, and
mhm.
you know, including my fuck off ethic,
Which is
because
well developed. Well developed.
I have a serious fuck off ethic.
Nobody does it better, baby. Nobody.
I'm working on it. Yeah, come on.
Well, I think if we keep um doing what we're doing, I mean, our rhythm is getting better. I think we deviated from the script a little bit there, but at least we had a script to deviate
Well, I
from.
just fucking disappeared on you, like for. I mean, I was
Oh,
gone.
at the beginning.
I was
That's
totally fucking. I was like, "Fuck! Did I just fuck the whole thing up?" And I was like, "Well, they haven't called, so it must be still going on. How the fuck do I get back in there?"
I I was telling Dano, and you missed this because this is when I was filling in with, but I was talking to Dano, and I was talking to him about my first, or at least my most dominant memory of him, my early memory of him in our first meeting, because I know that he came to the 99 Toronto Island Open. And I can't remember if I'm pretty sure the Great Lakes Open was before that. But I can't remember the exact
99,
time.
it was. Yeah, it was.
But I can't remember when I met Ginnelly the first time. But I remember, I think it was 99, Discraft Great Lakes Open. We were sitting around after the tournament, and they were doing a ring of fire. And it was like this huge jumbo toss ring of fire. I don't know if you recall this, but it was like in an area where there were volleyball nets, outdoor volleyball courts.
This is at Great Lakes Open.
Yeah, the Hudson Mills.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they put, the basket kind of in the middle of the flat area for where the courts were, but it was ringed.
And
by
there was
these
like
berms.
fucking 300 people or some shit like that, right?
300, because it was spectators and players. You didn't have to just be a player to be in on this. And so he and I are talking, and whoever is hyping up the release of this, he's all right, everybody, go grab a putter. And I was over there. I was sitting beside him, but I didn't even have my bag with me. I had nothing. And I was like, "Damn, give me a putter." And so he reaches in, he grabs, and I remember it was a pink magnet. It was hot pink, and I loved it. I was like, "This is awesome!"
Stevie Rico version.
And I threw it. Okay, so let's say this is where the basket is. I threw it this way because that's the spaz I am. But it bounces off one of the posts, the wooden posts that are buried in the ground that the nets hang off of. It bounced off that and went into the basket. It was like a 90-degree turn. It was perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna let you in a little secret. It's probably not very secret. If I figured it out, then lots of other people have figured it out. But when you're doing those things, you need to throw way to the right so that you get caught by somebody else's shit that drives it right into the basket, man. It works. I'm telling you, dude. I got probably gotten 3 or 4 Daryl Johnson tie-dyed towels back in the 90s that way. Because Daryl Johnson would be the one from Oklahoma City. He would be the one running the Ring of Fire at the events that I would be at or nearby, like at Oktoberfest especially. Remember at Oktoberfest how big it was? Like that was always a Daryl Johnson deal. And so I think that maybe it might have even been the first Oktoberfest I ever went to in '94 where I figured that out. Like maybe on the 3rd try, I was like going, holy shit, I just got screwed because I got knocked out. Like I was going in. It was going in and it got knocked out by side action. I was like, wait a minute. Maybe you need to play that way. And so from a righty's perspective, miss to the right and let them bring it into the basket for you. And I'm telling you, it works.
Now, I agree that that probably works if you're throwing it level at the basket and it gets bounced going this. I threw mine from a high point, basically flat. So it was literally 12 feet above the plane of every other putter out there.
With you. And I know what you're talking about too. I remember those posts, dude. Believe me.
It just is so perfect.
That's another one of my all-time favorite tournaments is the Great Lakes Open.
Yeah.
Especially, back in the day when they ran it out of Hudson Mills.
Yeah.
And even the Worlds there was badass. I mean,
I do regret not going to the 2000 Michigan Worlds.
Oh, that's right. You let fucking Rude Boy talk you out of it.
No, that was 98.
Shame you out of it.
That was Cincinnati. We were at Great Lakes Open.
Oh,
I had driven him.
Right.
I don't think I can't remember if I drove him down there I think, no, you know what happened? I showed up. Remember that's where you and I first went to the game 5, the back just between Waco and Kansas City.
Oh yeah.
So we were on that tour, Peoria,
from
Waco, Kansas City, Minnesota, and then we went to In-Flight Open in Lansing. And I remember playing the 2 courses to warm up, and there's fucking Root Boy. What the fuck are you doing here? And he had come down with Kelly and Skio.
Right.
So I inherited Root Boy at the tail end of my tour, and I was like wanting to pivot after the Great Lakes Open. I wanted to continue with my boys with the tour, and that's when he said, "If you abandon me now, we can't it's over between us.
You should have fucking walked, dude. I mean, like the dude
Should've.
doesn't even talk to you anymore.
No, I don't talk to him anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm
So-
like this.
Put out the feelers.
You're cured. Either way.
Either way. You know what he named his kid, by the way?
No.
Drake.
Like the singer or the duck?
He's going to deny that it was named after the singer, and he's going to claim the duck. But yeah, 2000, Michigan. I was going to ask, it's funny, so much of the research goes off to the wayside, but Disc Golf Journal, remember the Disc Golf Journal?
Yeah.
So in my research, Dan has left a minimal digital footprint, but in 1991, when he won the Can-Am, like he won the 10th event. He didn't win the overall, but
Look, we didn't even get to that.
he participated in all that. And there was, so UTEC was really big into the promotion side and well, especially the promotion side, but also the organizational side. And so he was putting together, he had this report for Disc Golf Journal afterwards, after the fact. And there was, you know, the sum up of all of the 10 events. And then there was like quotes from, I think Jeff Lissaman was a quote, and like the major touring players on. And I think it was more for River Bends was their showcase course at that time.
Yeah.
And Dano's quote was, an ideal place for a world championship. Well, the very fucking next year,
Yeah.
Dwayne Fatboy Utek is the TD of the worlds at that same fucking course.
You
And
know,
so I wanted to ask Dan, to what degree did you have any foreknowledge? Was there talk in the background? Did Dwayne, you know, say, "Hey, I want to have the world.
That's
This
a
is
good
my
question.
ambition"?
you
Or was
know,
that
here's something that honestly we need a 2-hour show, but we can't pull it off. Nobody will agree. You know, I mean, we just need to like go with it. Like, you know what we need to do? Here's what we need to do is we just need to go with it and go, okay, well, we got 2 hours worth of questions and we're just gonna see how long you'll stay after an hour.
or we tell them, okay, we're stopping live on Facebook, but we're still recording. This is after hours. Let's go.
We could
Is
do that too.
Because we started that with Matt. That's who we started it with.
I'm going for a beer. I'll be right back.
Sierra Nevada. It's a good shout out to our sponsors. Makers of fine beverages from California to Arizona. Coast to coast. Disc golf passed. It happened in our lifetime. And now here we are trying to preserve the stories.
It's good shit, right?
So I think what we need to do is I need to write a little tagline that kind of sums up the show or sums up our approach, the urgency that we feel about preserving the stories. The fact that, you know, how do we say that the younger generation, each new kind of generation of players that comes through, they think they invented the whole thing. Well, it was already there before you got there in
Man,
nascent
I'll tell you,
forms.
that's one of the things that, I mean, one of the things I feel really good about, you know, because I mean, I laid a lot of groundwork. I mean, shit, dude, if I'd have ever thought that it was only a year or two away that, hold on a second, Ginnelly's calling me up.
Really.
Hey, what's up? Oh, okay. So so she could jump on my Facebook and watch it if she wants, or we're gonna upload it to, I'll probably get this done tomorrow or the next day. I'm gonna upload it to our Facebook page, the Good Times Hour, and I can send you a link for that too.
YouTube page.
YouTube, excuse me, YouTube page. Yeah, I'll do that for you. No problem. When I do it, I won't do it tonight, but I'll do it tomorrow when I upload this, because I gotta upload about 4 episodes that we gotta put up there. So yeah, well, I'm a slacker. He was on there. Yeah, he watched and said it. Scott Riley and Kevin Lebowski, you remember him? He said, "Hey, thanks, Dan." So yeah. They watched it. They were watching it live. They can go back to my Facebook. If they're on Facebook, they can go back and watch it there. Yeah, probably so. All right, cool, bud. All right, you too. See it. Yeah.
I fucking love Ginnelly, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is.
Pitchy with the 3 cameras. What kind of phone you got?
This is the Note 20.
Wow.
Samsung Note 20.
Times are pretty good over there at Maceman Industries.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to. I mean,
But you live on your phone. Of course you got
hey,
it.
Christmas lights and shit. Yeah, I wish I could get away from it. It's fucking shit falls apart, and people don't hear what I say. And like the other day, I went 12 to 5 at the hot shop, and I told these guys that are working for me, I was like, and there's only 2 or 3 of them, but I'm telling them, like, look, if I'm going to the hot shop, then don't think I'm gonna fucking answer your text. I mean, if I do, you got lucky, but don't plan on me. Like, so this one particular day, man, I forgot, like, I was already in the space, and I had my shit where it needs to be, and got my shit out of my car and my shit out of my locker, and I realized, hey, I don't have my phone on me. It's in the car still. And Tatara had already put music on, and that's really the main reason I need the phone while I'm there, is for fucking entertainment, to keep my ADD busy, you know.
Qatar had started music. What is she?
Tatara.
Oh,
Tatara is her name. She's one of the, man, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 or 4, 5 people that either work there or used to work there that'll split time with me. 5 people. 10 years, dude. Just the other day, the 26th. It's been 10 years since I started blowing glass.
dude, that's huge.
That's something.
I told my mom about that actually, and she was just like, she lit up with joy when I told her that you were starting to do a tournament commission, where that you had been doing tournament commissions for a while. She the first thing she said to me was like, I did that first. I didn't want to correct her and say, well, he's blowing glass. You just did stained glass, but
No, but her trophies are just as coveted as mine are.
that was a pretty fun time.
I guarantee you, there's still people that are that keep her trophies in a special spot in their in their collection of trophies, for sure, dude. Like those trophies didn't get thrown away.
I have it up there on top of my record shelf.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I want
Yeah.
when
The
I
only
mean, like
reason why
that was one of the ones that I saw early on that I was like, fuck. I mean, I'm not really that good, but I was like, man, if I won one, I'd want it to be something like that. I mean, for sure, dude. That's good shit.
I remember my first year running the TIO was 1998. No, it wasn't called the TIO then. I called it the TIO, but it's in the same way. Like if we talk about Ginnelly and him kind of receiving the mantle of tournament directing. In some areas, it's like the onus and responsibilities of doing something are passed on as a birthright to a next generation. And so Goopy kind of, I don't want to say he handed, like there was no ceremony of him handing the tournament on to me. It was more like he abdicated and there was a vacuum.
He was
And
like,
this
somebody
was,
needs to run this. I pick you.
but this was kind of what
Mr. B, I've been doing some thinking today, in and amongst my scent, and I've decided that you're going to be the new TD of the Toronto tournament.
in the name of efficiency and realizing that you are a rising star.
You received all of my training, even when you didn't know it was going on.
In the form of a wet armpit to the face. But anyways, but I mean, when I started the TIO, well, sorry, when I got the mandate for the tournament, the first thing I wanted to do was like come up with a name, and then I wanted to think of like, okay, players packs. What can we do for, you know, the biggest things that I could think of at the time, and I don't know if this is like on the TD playbook, but establishing the name, establishing the players packs, and the trophies were like the three key things, as well as the course itself. But of those, like those are the three that would be typical to a tournament rather than endemic or innate to the locale itself. The course is the course. Maybe you have course like particular tournament layouts in which you have this basket only in this position during the tournament. But coming up with the players pack, that's a huge deal. And I don't know where the onus, where did the first idea of running it, you have to have a players pack for the tournament entry. I don't know where that started, but I certainly inherited it from a long tradition. And one thing that I did, not that it was in the players pack, but one thing I initiated was in that 1998 tournament was when you went out with the scorecard, because we were all doing shotgun starts, each scorecard had a scorecard holder with the TIO stamp on it.
I think I have one of those.
You have one of those?
I'm pretty sure I have one of those somewhere.
So what I did, and this is not, I don't know where I got this idea from, but I did not originate this idea. But what I did was last round, the winner of the card. So if there's 3 or 4 players on that card, the person who scores the best on that card gets to win the scorecard holder.
And those were spring loaded. I remember those. I got one of those somewhere. I'm going to get my tray and my herb. I remember that.
I remember looking for those, looking for motions companies at what their schedule, what their inventory was, what their catalog showed. And I remember looking long and hard for some kind of like golf scorecard clipboard. And I think I bought like 100 of them. I think that was the minimum order. And so of course there's only 18. The first, no, I did 21 holes for the first tournament, 1998. There were 21 holes. Because that was the year that, no, that was the year that we had changed things, but we had recently shifted parts of the course around and we lost parts of the course. And so I had included the last one and the first 2 holes of the original course from 1980. That was fun. The 1998.
I really enjoyed that 10-year stretch where I was up there like most of the 4th of July's for 10 years.
What a lot of people don't realize is when we say the Toronto Island, it's actually an island. It's in Lake Ontario. It's what, 2 miles off?
There's several islands though, isn't there?
Yeah, it's true. There's several islands, but it's like 2 miles from the mainland and in this kind of natural bay. Used to be actually Mace, if you can believe this or not, used to be when Toronto was originally settled, a peninsula. It was connected to the Eastern Gap by a spit of land. And where the channel is now, there used to be a hotel in like the 1850s. There used to be a hotel on that peninsula. That whole island, well, they call it the peninsula, that used to be a very sacred place to the Native Americans, and it was known as a place of healing. And so a lot of people would go there and, you know,
Stay in the hotel to get healed.
right.
I've heard about other places like that in other parts of the continent.
And one year, storms came up that were so huge that basically it cut off. It cut a channel through the peninsula, and it's right where the hotel was, and it swept the hotel into the water. Gone.
And I'll tell you what, dude. I fucking people that build a house right next to like the big bodies of water and shit and put all kinds of stuff in it that they care about. I don't understand how that happens, because my parents have a ditch that runs beside their house. Their street runs east to west and the ditch goes north to south. And one time Brandon, this is like in 2013 or 14, me and Brandon went up and stayed with Sue, Lindy, and Peggy Berry in Fort Collins, Colorado. Sue is
Oh,
Sue was a
she was the nurse,
old
right? The massage therapist.
massage therapist. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we stayed with Sue and Peggy. We went there for like a week. We went and saw a show at Red Rocks to start the trip, and then we saw Rush at the whatever they called it, the Pepsi Center back there. Now they call it the Ball Center. Oh yeah, dude, it was awesome.
Neil
And
Peart in action.
anyways, I fucking we drove home after we had like a hotel in Denver and fucking had a really good time. We had a blast. We got fucking ripped and used Airbnbs. Like, it was a really fun trip. Well, I drove back and I was playing. This was one of those, this was the year when I won like $18,000 worth of entries playing satellites into this poker series at the casino just north of the border. And my plan was to stay with my folks and then get up and eat breakfast with them and then drive down to Windstar, or stop at Windstar on the way home, basically, and play a mega satellite and then go on home. Well, at about fucking 1 a.m, my mom from the top of the stairs, I don't know how she knew it, but my mom like hollered from outside the door, basically, that if anything you got on the floor, you better put it on top of your bed or whatever, because there's water coming in the windows down here. And so I spent the next like 5 hours fucking shot back in water that was coming in from like everywhere you can imagine
Jesus.
in this basement. It's like a full basement, but it's like a concrete box, right? And like in my room's in the basement down there, and when I stay with them, and in my room, the main water line comes in, and it comes in from under the porch, which is just like a sidewalk space deep, and it runs like, as you're looking at that wall, it runs right to left. But there was so much fucking water outside that it was up under everything. Like, there was ankle deep water in the garage. And anyways, that was like, dude, I could go on and on about this, but anyways, I ended up not playing the tournament. And it just made me realize, like, I was standing in the fucking garage in ankle deep water and just going, if this water wants to get deeper, there ain't nothing you can fucking do about it. I mean, they said it in fucking driver's ed when I was in fucking high school. Water is the strongest natural force, and there ain't shit. I mean, there just ain't shit you can do about it. So, like, that story, like, think about this, bro. My guy Jim is a fucking big paddler, likes to canoe and shit. And he told me, and you think about this, like, he said the Mississippi, he said the line of the Mississippi and the actual where that river was and where it is now and where it's going to be in 10 years. He said it changes so much. He said every time it floods along the Mississippi, the channel changes, and you might have had land before, like some of your land. It's just like it goes one way.
Is it moving the same direction?
Well, the water's still moving the same direction, but
No,
like
no,
the
no, no, but the changing of the channels, does it continue to move
yeah, but it
westward?
like cuts a corner sometimes. Like if it makes a big old belly and comes back, like
Mhm.
sometimes it'll flood, and then that way that it went all the way, it won't go that way anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and so like you can't
No,
fucking
but
stop it.
that's what rivers do.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the thing.
That's
We
what water does.
so
Water's in charge.
did you know Leonardo da Vinci, the one thing that fascinated him more than anything else on the planet was water. He he studied it, he painted it, he sketched it, he thought about it, he tried to mathematically model it in every which way. And when you think about it, if you look at, I mean, we're spoiled here in Toronto. We got a huge fucking lake. It's like the size of a small sea. But if you look at any water, it's in constant motion.
Oh yeah,
And
for
the,
sure. Even when
the
it's frozen.
I've heard somewhere that like this may sound really fucking crazy, but water has memory. Have you heard this?
Mm-mm.
Whether it has memory or not, the fact that it can just be the most explosive force on the planet is enough for me. I mean, when you look at where shorelines used to be, we have here in Ontario, in Toronto, we've got the shoreline of an ancient lake, Lake Iroquois, but yet off of like say Bermuda, they have shelves that go down lower and looks like there was like archaeological evidence and in Japan as well that are buried below the sea. So in one area you have the water being higher and another area being lower. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
this world we kind of forget, and it is kind of our societal hubris, but we kind of forget that we're on a rock that's moving through the universe. We're in constant movement. The planet is you and I right now, we're moving at like 800 kilometers an hour right now, but we're
Right.
moving at the same time so we can do this. But imagine if the planet stopped, like just absolutely stopped. Could you even imagine the backlash? This is physics.
Well, we'd all fall down. Oh fuck! Be like a face plant for most of us.
There's a dog walker and the
Might not
beaches.
survive it.
Yeah, well, I mean, life is amazing how much it survived. Is 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 it too much to think? We tend to say amongst ourselves that if there was a nuclear war, for instance, that'd be it for all life on the planet. That's kind of this life profile. 12,000 years ago, 13,000 years ago, when the glaciers, when the whole world was like in a glacial freeze. There was life before that, though, right? So whatever we do to this planet now, it's hubris to think that all life everywhere is going to cease. Life in some form is going to come back. Not going to come back like this, like us, like you and me, like you with the chin hair and wearing the Stars hat, and me wearing this ridiculous Raptors hat, even though the Raptors aren't going to make the playoffs.
They're not.
Probably not. Maybe, I don't know. I don't care.
The
I'm a
Leafs are.
bandwagon jumper.
I'm like this. The Leafs are. Come on. I know
Dude,
the Leafs are.
we have to go through Tampa first and then Boston second Are you kidding me? Do you know how many ghosts we have to exorcise? It's not gonna happen. We'll be lucky if we even get to Boston. We'll be lucky. Our
Is that what you're
typical,
gonna face?
we're gonna face Tampa in the first round, 100%. No one's not gonna say it. No one's not gonna. I'm calling it. If you want to book it right here, call it. Leafs, Lightning, first round.
You're on the top end of that, right?
Yeah, we get to host more misery than we get to face away. It's true.
You
Because
don't have any
nothing hurt.
confidence in you guys making it?
Oh, we'll make the playoffs. We're just
No, I mean like beating Tampa.
maybe.
Yeah.
The recent record is, I think we've gone 8 years straight first round bow outs. So the numbers don't indicate a positive idea. I don't know what Toronto
Yeah,
versus
that,
Tampa
that just
this year,
indicates it's time for a fucking change, bro. Come on.
but even if we pass Tampa, we have to face Boston. And we're not getting, dude, Boston's got 12 regular
Dean
game
says hi.
losses. Dean?
Dean Burton.
Oh, Dino. But if we even get past Tampa Bay, Boston is like, they're the best team in the league by far. They're like one of the all-time franchise bests. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you know what, dude? Like
I'm
that
saying
shit
some
doesn't
fans, I'm saying
that doesn't fucking matter, dude. I mean,
no. You know what? If
fucking
it was
throw some fucking
if it was
throw some
Florida, if it was
cocktails at Jim
Toronto,
Montgomery and
if
it's
it was the
over.
New York Islanders, if it was Oilers, if it was LA Kings, it wouldn't matter. But it's Boston, and it does matter, and they're gonna win the Stanley Cup this year.
I'm like this. No, they're not.
Listen, if we want to go back and we want to say when did B call it? Right now, right
329.
now,
I'm like this. 329-23.
Boston is gonna win the Stanley Cup. Marchand is just too ugly and too repulsive to not win the Stanley Cup. What? What? Do you have an
Huh?
answer for Marchand?
I'm like this. Yeah. Right here.
Unless you've got Marchment
Straight
back,
in the fucking yap.
the second coming of Brian Marchment.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite as tough as his dad, maybe. I'm not sure.
So where is Dallas
It
currently
was an
sitting?
unfortunate knee on knee that took him out, but I'm still not convinced that he's as tough as his dad. When fuck that motherfucker.
Yeah,
His
no,
dad.
Marchment is, or sorry, Marchand is not that tough necessarily, but he's just who's the best super pest you can think of?
Well, Marshawn's fucking up there, man, for sure.
Okay.
I mean,
I mean, Sean Avery was one of the greats, right?
yeah. Fucking Katy Perry. Um, fuck. There's a bunch of I mean, like, you could say that to some degree Lindros was among other things. Hi, Toby.
But Domi also was an enforcer. So
You hear me say hi, Domi?
I heard you say Ty Domi, but Domi was an enforcer. So I'm just talking like straight up super pest, like
Antoine Roussel.
refresh
Oh,
refresh
Steve
my
Ott.
mind.
Steve Ott.
Steve Ott. That's exactly. Oh, that's a great example.
Mhm. I have
So
a Steve Ott jersey.
I remember when Steve Ott, okay, so the year that he got drafted by Dallas, that was like, we're talking in the late 90s, I think, maybe early 2000s. I think it may be early 2000s. Natalie and I were just,
Yeah, I don't think he played the old building.
we were avid fans of the World Junior Championships hockey. And
Yeah.
I remember whatever year that was, let's say it's 2000, 2001. It was because it was early 2000s at the very latest. And I remember this guy, and I think he played for the London Knights. That's who he played for in junior.
I think
the
he played for Windsor Spitfire.
Did he? Okay.
I'm
Thank
pretty
you.
sure. Because he's like another dude made the team a few years later, and that's where his parents lived too. And so this dude was his parents were the Billet family for this other guy. I can't remember who it was,
Oh, wow.
but like he made the league, and they got to play together for a little bit, and like they made it. I think maybe the Stars drafted him, or maybe we picked him up on waivers or something. Yeah, I'm like this, Paul. I know a bunch of these fucking hockey stories, and like
But
most people don't expect me to know it.
most people
But like
don't.
it's weird how this shit comes up.
Any disc golfer who knows you should know to expect that you know some hockey. But Steve Ott, specifically for this Canada, the World Junior Championships, it's in Europe, and I can't remember where. I feel like it was in Finland, but I could be wrong. But it was in Europe, and Steve Ott, super pest that we both agree on. This
Maybe
is the legend,
one of the best of all times.
but this is the legendary story. He taught himself. Let's say I think there's 8 teams in the World Championships, Junior World, sorry, World Juniors.
I know
8,
where you're going with
maybe
this.
10. He learned how to say "go fuck your mother" in all 7 other languages or 9 other languages or however many languages. Like he learned the most insidious, disgusting, repulsive, like shock you out of who you are and go fuck you and want to punch him and then lose the face off and get a penalty and you're off. That's that dude. And if there's, other than Sean Avery, if there's another NHL level agitator who's better than Steve Ott, who learned 7 other languages just to learn how to say "go fuck yourself" in all 7 of them.
I don't know how you're gonna fucking beat that, man.
How are you going to beat that?
I'm not saying that nobody's gone to those kind of links, but I do. I remember you telling me this story before.
Yeah.
Mm.
Otter. I always loved them. Always
You know
thought
what's
he was
crazy?
great.
We got Jake Ottinger as our goalie now, and his nickname is Otter too.
Mm.
But they never fucking showed a fucking little otter for Steve Ott.
So when last game of the regular season is when?
It's like in 2 weeks.
I think the Leafs have 9 more games.
We have 8. It's on the 13th. Hey, listen, I gotta pee real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
It's 2 weeks in a day. Yeah, and I got a great story to tell you. Remind me to tell you the story about the Blues game.
For fuck's sakes, Toronto lost in overtime to Florida. First of all, there's no fucking ice. The only snow in all of South Florida, we know where that's blowing from, and that's from Cuba. Thank you. Why do they deserve 2 teams, and why are they good? Okay, so I guess we have 8 games left. Let's look at the standings. All right. Toronto is locked into that second place spot with 9. Dude. Okay, let's look at the Eastern Conference. We're just gonna take a second. Time out. We're gonna take a second and we'll look at the Eastern Conference. First place, first of all, every team but Tampa has guaranteed their spot. So in the Metropolitan Division, Carolina is leading the Metropolitan Division with 103 points in 73 games. They have
Who are you talking to?
you. They have
Yes.
9 more games left to play.
Who does?
Carolina has secured their spot in the playoffs so far. They have 103 points in 73 games. Jersey, second in the Metropolitan Division, has 100 points in 74 games. So they only have 8 games left to play. The Rangers have also secured their spot in the playoffs with 98 points in 74 games. That's in the Metropolitan. In the Atlantic,
I think we have 98 as well.
Boston's got 119 points.
Yeah, so what, dude? They fucking
Yeah.
remember who had all the points last year and they went out in the first round?
Yeah, Florida. But Florida sucks. Florida. Boston is used to this shit. 98
like
points
this.
for Toronto and 92 for Tampa. So unless something radically changes between the two, it looks like Toronto's going to be hosting Tampa Bay. However, Tampa hasn't secured because the Islanders and Pittsburgh still possibly could switch places with Tampa.
That's crazy. Nobody's secured in the West.
But they're so, in the wild card, we still have a fight, a battle. It's still going on. Now let's look at the West. The Central Division. Minnesota, Colorado, Dallas. What, 95, 94, 94? Are you even kidding me? Look how close that is.
It is. It's crazy, right?
Colorado's got 9 games. Minnesota and Dallas each have 8 games. I love the fact that Minnesota and Dallas basically, like, when you look at like the Marvel universe where you have discrepant timelines or the multiverse of madness. I look at Minnesota and Dallas and I think the multiverse of madness right there between those two freaking teams. Anyways, they're kind of. And yeah, Vegas, LA, Edmonton. Oh, that's pretty tight over there too. Holy shit, look how tight this is. But now look at the wild card.
Way fucking on the back of the bus. Like none of those guys have anything to like. They're not a threat at all, unless like just tank them.
Now Seattle and Winnipeg currently sit in the wild card, but they still could technically flash out. I think Seattle's in Pacific and Winnipeg's in Central, right?
Yep.
So they technically, I mean, Winnipeg's got 7 games left. That's what they need. Minimum 9 points in 7 games. Not likely. They just have to want to hold off Calgary and Nashville. Realistically, at this point, anything below Nashville's not making it. Vancouver's not making it. Arizona, Anaheim, Santa.
Oh, hell no.
No.
Nashville probably isn't making it either.
And
But they might. I mean, they fucking traded everybody. They like Puel's retiring at the beginning of July, right? Like July 1, I think. Not Craig Berube, but what's his name? Who used to coach for him? Fucking Boudreaux. I think Boudreaux's taken over as general manager.
Are you serious?
Yeah, David Puel's retiring.
And Boudreaux's going up to front office?
If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that.
Now, in the East, Pittsburgh is currently holding down the last wild card spot. They have 82 points. And below them, you've got Florida with 81, Buffalo, Ottawa, and Washington all with 77. There's a chance one of those 4 teams could bump Pittsburgh at. What a shit show with
Yeah,
that.
but it's pretty gotta be fucking Florida at this point. I mean, it could be, man, that's 5 points, dude. That's a lot to make up in the last 8 games.
A lot to make up.
Like shit has to go your way. I mean, in your house and in somebody else's house too. Like shit's
Now,
just
okay.
gotta absolutely go south for Pittsburgh. And Buffalo's gotta win out.
But Florida, between Florida and Pittsburgh, that's 1 point. So that's
So
entirely
Buffalo,
possible.
I mean, so yeah, for Florida, it's totally doable. Florida
But
has no,
Buffalo,
like, New York Islanders pretty much is out of reach for any of those guys,
yeah,
even for probably Pittsburgh.
probably.
Dude, I don't know if you care at all about any of this basketball shit. And like, I'm not this weekend. I mean, I don't know.
March Madness.
Oh my God, dude.
What?
Not this past weekend so much, but the weekend before, it was unbelievable. But this is like the best time of year. Like
All the
3
number
weekends
one
in a row
seeds
of
are out.
badass basketball, and then fucking hockey fucking fires up on all cylinders.
But I did see that one headline. It's the first year, I think, ever that there's no number one seeds left. They all got turfed. I'd say that's a yes, a resounding yes.
Two
By
of
the
them,
way, by
two
the
of
way,
them got their shit handed to them in the fucking Sweet 16, not even the Elite Eight. Like the last two of them were sent home in the Sweet 16, and the other ones were sent home in the round of 32.
round in 32. Holy shit.
It starts with 64.
I know, but
Dude, I'm gonna
getting
tell you
sent
what,
home.
Paul.
Go.
You want to go to? No, I'm telling you what. The
Well, I
what?
know
I'm
you
telling.
said you said Paul. I'm like, holy, I'm paying attention now. Holy shit.
I'm like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, my best Canadian friend. His name's Paul. Okay. Yeah, but like, yeah, I know the other name too, but yeah, I'm like this. Anyways, fucking dude, I lost my train of thought.
Damn it. I was so paying attention.
Yeah,
All
I
of
got
the viewers
I got
were
your
wrapped.
attention with the ball. No, dude, it was just great games. I mean, seriously, it was, man, fucking cliffhangers. Like, who the fuck? Oh, holy shit! And these guys are gonna fucking send you home too. And it's a great time of year.
So not to go, I am going very sideways from this, but in USDGC, I can say 100% I'm in. So
That's awesome.
we just gonna need to figure the logistics.
We'll need 2 rooms. You probably room up with Tong Lee. Yeah, I'm like this. He's probably one of my best friends too. You probably hung out with him in Tulsa or at Oktoberfest. He's Vietnamese guy.
I feel like I know him.
If you check out,
I've probably met him in the Frizz. Oh, by the way, who started the Frizz? Who can we talk to about the Frizz?
Harvey Barger.
Let's start with him. We need him on the list.
Okay.
Wouldn't you think? That we've been
Not what it
pumping.
used to be, but
No,
it's
no.
still going on.
Doesn't matter what it used to, what it is now. It's what it was when we were there. But
Dude,
because I'll be honest with you, the whole idea of the OD tour was it had 2 major kind of parental reference. One was the Michigan Disc Golf Organization statewide tour as a
good one to model.
statewide,
Without a doubt.
unsanctioned thing, and the second was the Frizz. Those were the two granddaddies of the OD tour. So it would be like a pleasure, an honor, a privilege to interview Harvey.
We could probably pull that off. I'm not certain of it, but I don't know what his technology life is like.
All right.
But
we'll
Iqbal
try.
lives close to him, and so maybe we can get him to go to Iqbal's house, and Iqbal can set him up.
Iqbal Jahan.
The one and only.
He's in Kansas. Wait, is he from Kansas?
Um,
I felt like he was from Illinois.
no, he's from Kansas.
Okay.
I think I'd be real surprised if he wasn't born in Kansas. He lives outside of Winfield now.
Wow.
Iqbal does, yeah.
So let's make that happen. We get Harvey over to Iqbal's house and we get the 2-for-1. We get the two of them sitting.
No. Dude, we can't be having two guests at the same time.
Okay.
Think about it. It's
Okay.
not fair to the guest. I mean, if you
That's
want to
true.
get Iqbal on, Iqbal just rebuilt our website. Iqbal is my fourth brother, after you, if I need him to be. Yeah, I'm like this. He's not as tight as you are in the family, though. Like, he's actually my 7th or 8th brother, because, Jonathan and Zeb would definitely fit in there somewhere, too.
I'm trying to remember when I first met Iqbal, and I feel like I thought it was in AM Worlds. I thought it was Grand Rapids and Worlds 96, 97.
Could be.
But that would be, yeah, okay, there you go. There's 2 shows. We got
We
Iqbal.
can get Iqbal. Mitch Mack lives out there, too.
Really?
Yeah.
He left Norman?
His mom passed away.
Oh.
So, I don't know the whole story. I was hoping to hang out with Mitch Mack. He was one of the people on the memorial list that I was looking forward to hanging out with, but he got hurt, and so he left town after he got hurt, and so I didn't. I haven't got to hang out with Mitch Mack in a while.
Is Clint still playing?
Yeah, they both played Vegas.
Wait, I guess I should rephrase the question. Is Clint still playing disc golf tournaments in Daisy Duke short cutoff denim shorts?
Probably.
Those two. We need to bring that to the world.
Oh, for sure. We need to get those guys on too, without a doubt. Whenever Daryl Johnson introduced me to Mitch Mack, it was right after I hit that big ace in 93. And by the way, that big ace in 93 was a Viper that's got a Riverbend stamp on it.
Whoa.
From that world it came with Mike Dixon from that world championship.
1992.
But yeah, so I bought it from Mike D. He brought back a few things and he was selling them in the parking lot at the Mini. And it's a fucking old mold sharp edge Viper. It's red, dude, and it's so fucking ready.
Wait, do you still have it?
Oh yeah, it's sitting on my dude. I won $1,667 with it. I had a little trophy stand made for it.
That comes from 93 you hit?
Oh yeah, dude, I hit it in 93. Like January 13th of 93.
I thought you hit that $1,600 ace in like 98, 99.
No, 93, bro.
Holy
I'm going for beer. I'll be right back.
You have you set the sky. Obviously I remember because we were hanging out in the late 90s, early 2000s. I knew that you had hit a $1,660 ace, and of course it's American, so that's huge.
Yeah.
But that was always one of those things that was like the kind of world global benchmark, as it were. And so in the OD tour, we used to have 2 separate ace pools. the $2 ace pool.
Yeah.
Which, if you contributed to the $2 ace pool and it didn't get hit, an ace didn't get it, or someone who hit the ace wasn't in the $2 ace pool, then we would do a jumbo toss, and we would
Okay.
give it out at that tournament. It was not leaving with us.
Okay.
But we developed the $5 tournament or $5 ace pot as well,
Mhm.
and then that became a kind of consecutive ace pot, so that if you weren't at the one before, you had to pay to catch up, just like you were talking about with.
Yeah.
But this was $5 per event, and so it got to the point where we had one. It wasn't hit in like 2 years or 3 years, and we went out to we went out to Screaming Heads, and you remember Nao, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So Nao is a particularly adept course designer. He's got one of those guys who, like, steps out onto a piece of land and goes, "Oh my God, yeah, we need to do it this way, we need it that way." And so we at Screaming Heads, where you were that one brief little summer, which was kind of difficult to imagine because the grass was so high. It was difficult to imagine all the
Fuck,
possibilities. But
dude. I only think that there's maybe 2 other places in the world where I was more concerned with the fucking mosquitoes, but we were there with Dushan. Dude, I saw a picture the other day, like a memory on Facebook with Dushan by that front gate. I got a photo somewhere
Mm.
of Dushan by that front gate, and it's just like like this saw this. Remember when we stayed at his house and all those guys from St. Thomas came in the motorhome the second year.
Yeah.
So I got this picture, like one of my pictures that popped up on Facebook recently was a memory from us camping out at Dushan's house, and it was him and that tall skinny dude with the blonde curly hair. They were standing in the backyard. I don't remember what his name was, but like, dude, like that was epic, epic, like total. You don't even know, I mean, like, and that's what I post. I just did that. I did the hashtag you don't even know, and there's a bunch of. Like, I've got a friend that's a badass photographer, Corduroy. You'll meet him at Rock Hill. And there's this thing that Tank got. It wasn't Tank that started it, but Tank like announced it at this poker game at USDGC where Kenny took charge at one point, and he was like, "Champ in charge," and I was just like, "Oh fuck, okay." I see what's going on here. And dude, I've been champ in charge plenty of times. I mean, love him, don't get me wrong, but there's times where Kenny will just take over a situation if he thinks like you don't fucking have a control. Like, this isn't how blah blah blah. It's like, okay, yep, all right, go ahead, champ. And so I told Chad about that, Corduroy, the photographer. And so I've started a hashtag for him that's Chad in charge. And I'm gonna tell you what, this dude's a badass photographer. I mean, he is really fucking solid. He's our photographer for the championship. And but it only says less than 100 hashtag. When you hashtag that, it'll go less than 100 posts. And I'm just like going, fuck, man. Well, at some point people are gonna figure it out. But that you don't even know it's got a lot of posts. The hashtag. Like, I don't know much about that. But it does have a lot. It doesn't say that it's less than 100. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I remember
in a
somebody,
way.
Jay, called me, and I was in a man lift. I was in the convention center, Dallas Convention Center Arena. I was up on a man lift. I was focusing lights.
Mm.
And he called me, and he called me again. And I was like, "Fuck, what's up?" And he goes, well, I just wanted to tell you that Dushan was involved in a black ice accident, or he's involved in an accident, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Fuck, was he drunk?" And he goes, "No, it was black ice." And I was like, "Okay. I mean, nothing you can do about that. That's part of life." And
The
in the north.
irony is that for almost everyone who knew him, that was kind of our first question. Was he drinking?
Well, I mean,
That was our
I
first
mean,
question. I mean, that was our major,
dude,
the dominant impression of Two Shot.
I'm in
That's what
Toronto.
the whole. So we have his official nickname on the OD tour, his official name in Ontario is Fucko, and it comes from
Fuck.
that weekend. You remember that weekend?
Oh yeah.
You were there. Holy crap! So we already talked about this with Jay when we had him on the show back in the end of December, but that's when he got the nickname. But he was a born fucko, and a beautiful soul. I'm not saying this to like diminish anything. I fucking love that
One of,
fucko.
one of the coolest people ever. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously, like just one of those, like everybody that knew him at all feels robbed that he
yeah.
that we didn't get more Dushan in our life. You know, I mean, it's just not.
Why is it that fate or destiny or time or whatever takes the best and not the worst? You know?
Yeah, it's true, dude.
You
Like,
could have
man,
you
I
could have
like
10 more years with
seriously
this fucko.
those stories, like the stories about the old timers. Like he'd tell me these that he'd say, okay, so this old timer told me a story. He used to be, you man, like the charcoal plant. Remember the old charcoal plant? He goes, yeah, this old timer. He goes, once a month he'd come out here and he'd turn on the spigot and he just let this sludge run out into the river, and it would cover the whole entire top of the river, and then it would solidify, and then it would sink, and then the gravel would come in and cover it, and then like a month later he'd do the same thing. And apparently there's layers of that fucking tar under that river. And I mean, like, dude, seriously, that like seeing that train go across those train tracks out there across the river and shit, and like I'm never gonna forget that.
Dude,
Like that place is so fucking beautiful and so potentially toxic
if
all
you
at the
went
same
there,
time.
if you come to Ontario, I'm gonna say let's go up there just to see, just fucking show you, because that is just lush, verdant,
I can
emerald
imagine.
grass. Like you don't see one piece of cinder anywhere.
If I
Remember, it
come
used
to
to be like all
Ontario.
that crushed red cinder all over the place.
Yeah,
It's all grass. It's all beautiful. It's just, it's a wonderful, like it. It's a miracle that the course is still in the ground, because the course, and this is one of the interesting things about disc golf, and this is something we can maybe expand upon with some of our other guys, like with how they maybe in Kansas City specifically. But what's interesting is that disc golf often is a rehabilitative activity, not just for the
absolutely.
individuals, but for the site.
For the land.
And
Yeah,
we've seen that.
absolutely.
And I mentioned this in Hal's case because I know in Kansas City, they allowed the installation of this course because that park was known as a gay cruising ground, and they put
It still
the
is a gay cruise.
still,
Oh,
but but
100%.
but
Rosedale. I mean,
like,
Rosedale. Yeah.
yeah, but like the community, reaction against it has reduced to almost a minimum. Still's gay, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, those guys, like, that's one thing. Like, there's only two things about gay people that really bother me, and one of them is that a lot of times they try way too hard to push their sexuality on everybody else, especially when they're young. And then the other thing is like, why is it that the fucking, like, where I ride my bike, it's a fucking, it's a little Fruit Loop up there. You know what I mean? It's gay guys like to hang around this loop at the top of the park, and it's just like, what is it with fucking gay dudes? Gay chicks aren't fucking cruising each other in the park and then fucking going off in the woods and sucking each other's dicks and shit. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
but
come on,
you're a dude. I mean, it's just the
get a
rampant
goddamn room. Fuck. I
the
mean,
sexual
seriously,
drive is so huge, of course. Yeah, no, you lose all reason.
get a fucking room.
Imagine, I don't know. I'm not just saying. I don't know how we got on this. I was talking more about disc golf as a rehabilitative action rather than gay sex, but thank you for bringing us to that level. In other
Hey, so
news,
dude, Andy Lehman. We need to have Andy Lehman on. She just
is
sent me
she
a fucking PM. Hello? You there?
I'm here.
So Andy Lehman watched saw our show tonight with Ginnelly. From Juliana and Jim turned him on to it. Dude, we got some momentum, bro. We
Dude,
got we got some fucking momentum working. So Andy Lehman would like to be on the show too.
nice.
Yeah, dude, and she's one of the people that's in charge of the Hall of Fame.
She's from Houston, right?
Yeah.
Or she's in Houston. Yeah, man. All right. Let's throw Andy Lehman on the list whenever. Dude, momentum's growing. I love it. Andy Lehman. This is incredible.
Dude.
Dude,
Yeah. It's on. You're gonna have to get permission to go other places. I'm just saying. And if I have to like throw in fucking 20 or 30 bucks on the shoes, I mean, like I could probably help you out.
so
Did that
Carolina's
just
gonna
shoot
be,
right past you?
I don't know what you said, but
I said if I gotta throw in 20 or 30 bucks on the shoes, to get you through the fucking committee.
committee, which committee?
The approval committee.
Oh, yeah. Shoes. No, that's
With your
she's looking beyond shoes. She's looking at full outfits.
well shit,
So-
man. Maybe we can get those clicks and make it pay.
So yeah, we're gonna make it work for South Carolina. Okay. I don't even know what I was gonna say. That's I was, you know what?
Dude, do you realize
What?
how fucking cool that is that Jim and Juliana like were talking it up? Like that's fucking good shit.
They
That's
really?
like that's the kind of thing that, I mean, I'm not surprised that they are, but that's just like giving us that little pat on the back down the road, pat on the back, moving on down the road,
Where were they talking that shit up?
Well, Andy's in Houston, and this last weekend was Texas State's down there, and Juliana, fuck, I didn't even look. I mean, honestly, I kind of been burnt out a little bit on everything lately. And these last couple of weekends, I've just been really enjoying not fucking doing much and staying at the house. And so I hadn't really looked into. I mean, I paid attention to Nolan. Nolan took second, and
They tell me that.
and but I just kind of hadn't paid attention the last 2 weekends. I caught a little bit of each of it, and but they stayed at her house, Jim and Juliana, because Andy's old school and so is Juliana and Jim, but Juliana and Andy probably go way back. I would assume.
I think Jim and Andy go way back.
Maybe so. Yeah, because I mean, Andy's been around a long time. Like she's a super rare bird, rare bird in Houston. Like she's probably the oldest old school person in Houston, and she was probably by herself down there for a really fucking long time.
Yeah.
But still, like goes back to like Tita Ugaldi days and shit,
Well, I mean, there was Don Wilczek.
Maybe not quite
in
that
Houston.
far, but close.
No, in the Houston area, you had Don Wilczek. That was her.
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, but I mean, she was around. I mean, she was around longer than Wilczek, I think.
But as a player, yeah, she wouldn't have played against Don. But that's going to be. It's funny because one of the areas that I rely on for research are the digitized archives of Disc Golf Journal and other disc golf world magazines. So, I mean, you remember the journal, right?
Yeah,
You can read every
nice.
episode. Yeah.
You're a fucking badass with that shit, Paul.
No, it's just simple Google searches. I feel like my search skills are awful because I wasn't able to figure out where the fuck was Dan Ginnelly born? Who's his father? I couldn't find this shit.
Yeah, but you're fucking really good at that. Andy's
I tried.
replying to my message.
What?
Well, just saying, yeah, thank you. We would love to have you on the show as well. I got a little buzz on.
Dude, this is great. You know what? We're doing what we do. This is the first and foremost is creating the content, like creating the material first. What we do with this afterwards, we do with it. And I think you or I can, or both of us can benefit from looking at videos on how to edit, how to punch things up.
Oh, for sure. We
You know what
definitely
I
need to
mean?
do that.
Like, we don't want to put the raw recordings up on YouTube. We want to know where to snip it off so that that's their hour, and then there's the after hours with them, and then there's the outtakes with us or whatever. Because I know we're still recording. So
Yeah.
how do we use this stuff in the future? Learning stuff like that. And this is now that it's I'll be honest with you, it's like I'm I'm fucking ecstatic about this. Honestly. I I try with my intros, with my research.
Dude, your intros are fucking killing it, dude. Seriously, try. You're fucking hitting it out of the park, bro. Your research has always been on point. Like, I'm totally a slacker from that standpoint. But
You
hey,
don't
I
have
got
to
the
be.
schedule worked out.
See, I mean, we just skew to each other's talents. That's or capabilities. That's like the most important thing. And
I have the utmost confidence in the fact that we could fucking we'll line up every week between now and the time I gotta start slinging light again. And I think that I can be pretty confident in the fact that maybe I don't have to go for as long a shutdown, but I'm gonna just say that that's a definite maybe. But it's at the time, that's right. But dude, like, seriously, we're gonna fucking, like, that whole man, dude. Like, I'm not saying shit to nobody about that whole worlds thing yet, just because, or like the world championship thing. Because, like, dude, if we could pull that off, like, dude,
What-
we're gonna have a lot more people tuning into that than
oh
anything else.
yeah. Okay, so let's target for like by the end of June, we have all of that set up, solid,
Oh,
everybody's
for sure.
established.
And maybe even earlier.
That any earlier would be greater, and we could just. You've already dropped the bomb. I heard you earlier tonight. You kind of said we got something lined up for about that in the future, and I thought, okay, that's just a little.
Yeah, well, we'll see who's paying attention. We'll see who's
Right?
paying attention.
Yeah. But I think that if we, now that I know that that is definitely a fact, I'm just going to go nuts with the research on all of those guys.
Well, we got.
We
Well,
know
shit,
who
you can go ahead. You can research on Harold too. So I mean, you can research on all 5 of them.
No, those 5 advance, but our whole summer lead up to the Worlds,
Mhm.
like working on that, because I was
You're gonna start writing term papers?
one for this, yeah. One of the ideas I probably told you about this,
Come
but
on.
one of the ideas I had was looking at Climo before the Worlds, and maybe we can introduce this as like as an advance promo kind of drop. You know what I'm saying? Because I started to do a little bit of work, but I mean it's not it's just scratching the surface, and then of course I can always go back and really polish it up. But what was Climo before Climo? Like who was Climo before 1990? What was
He
he
was a
doing?
framer.
No, of course he was a yeah, but that was the real world. But like as a disc golfer, tracking his every tournament, tracking his, you know, writing it from that perspective. I was looking at that. I remember looking at I think I'm I'm pretty sure Sierra Willie who introduced him to tour life, and I think Laurel Springs was his first out of state tournament. So like the
Kenny?
stages, yeah. So
Wow.
the
Terry
stages,
Calhoun tuned in tonight. Scott Riley, Brad Schick, Lebowski, Tom Langley, Jim Tobish, Courtney, Randy Shukar, some of my
wow.
locals. Yeah, but go ahead, go ahead. So Laurel Springs, dude, like my guy Jim that works for me, he went to Laurel Springs AM tournament and he didn't get in. And he told me, he goes, dude, like I don't remember what exactly he said, but basically he was like, I never regretted not signing up for something early ever like that. And like he said, he hung out for a little while and he had to leave.
I went to the 1996 AM Nationals after the AM Worlds. The AM Worlds were in um, Augusta,
96. Yeah,
Augusta, Georgia.
I played
And
95.
the AM, yes, that's where I first encountered you, was in Cincinnati, 95. But in 96, they were down in Georgia. And the weekend after the AM Worlds was supposed to be the AM Nationals at Laurel Springs. However, in the time when I submitted my entry fee to the AM Nationals to when I showed up in Georgia, because nobody had a smartphone at the time. We didn't have email. It's like nobody had a laptop. Who the fuck had a laptop?
Nobody.
Fuck out of here. So by the time like I finished the AM Worlds, we found out that it changed from Laurel Springs to Burlington. Is that what it was?
North Carolina,
Yeah.
Wellspring and Cedar Rock.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
Wellspring and
nice
Cedar
place,
Rock.
but it's
It was
I don't
nice,
think
but it
it's
was
the
no
same.
fucking Laurel Springs. And that's how close I missed, because that was 95 was the last year that they played Laurel Springs. So when I signed up in 96, I had no idea they had sold the property and I missed it. Like
Yeah,
when you
that's
when you when you think of like maybe that's another topic that we could go at with some of our guests is like what are the what ifs, or what are your regrets that's still on the table? Where did you not go that you had the opportunity to go? What about a course that's no longer existence like Laurel Springs? Something like that
yeah.
along the line. I want
Uh,
to
I mean,
honestly,
but then like also another thing too, like we need to get back after getting Fred Salas on because that goes with like he's got a last I heard, and I could this may have changed. He had a pro shop at least for a long time in that building at uh, Mount Airy Forest.
hmm,
Dude, that course was designed in the 80s.
I played Mount Airy. You played Mount Airy?
Fuck, it's one of
Oh,
my
well,
favorites still.
that's where we played 95.
95.
That's right.
95. I played I've played it in Edgewood Electric a couple times after that.
Yeah.
I gotta get a beer. I'll be right back.
Did you play Edgewood 97?
I played after 95, I played all of that. Like dude, like you were talking about players packages. Hold on a second.
Okay, I'll hold on.
Cincinnati, embroidered towels, Edgewood Electric towels.
The Edgewood Electric towels.
I got like I stumbled onto like I bet I have 4 of them back there, 5.
I swear those were the best
Like
high
some of them
fed
have,
cotton
some of
counts
them
I've
have
ever had.
never seen daylight, dude. I have a couple that I used, and the rest of them I just put them away. And like that's one of the things like at Zebo's, for the Zebo's Open. In fact, here I'll show you one. I got one right here in my golf bag.
In his golf bag, nonetheless. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you.
Yeah, but it's Zebo. I mean, I'm the tournament director, but
There it is.
you know, that's like the 5th. There's 22 of them. This is the 22nd. And so, you know, I mean, like that's one of the things that I've like
When
you
was
talked
that
about.
one?
Where's the players package come from?
Where was the Z5? What year
It
was
was
that?
Zebo. It's Zebo's.
No, what year?
2005, because they were on until COVID.
Oh,
It was the number of the year,
okay.
and then in 01,
So Jay and I came down for 07.
so that was Zebo's 07, the 7th one.
Was that the only year did we only come down for one tournament? That one year? Sorry. Maybe
I
just
don't
one
remember.
tournament. We didn't stay at your place
07.
more than 1 year, did we?
Well, if it was 07 and then 08, I fucking threw in the towel. Man, I need to
'Cause
smoke some
we
pot.
came down for the big show. We played all 3 tournaments, and we went to the Stars game. Stars, I think it was the Stars Wild, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And there was some, and there was
Kale
like
Lavisco was
Dan
there.
Johnson and Kale, and dude, like Kale wants to be on the show.
Yeah.
Kale's down.
I reached out to him last year before what is it, the championship?
Blue Ribbon Pines.
No, at the Airborne, whatever the course that he designed, not the Blue Pines. Is that what it is?
It's a tournament. That's an event that happened, or that's added the Twin Cities Pro Tour event is at Blue Ribbon Pines, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, where is not the Airborne Championship, the Preserve. That's what it's called, the Preserve. That's where they're all playing at. Testify, brother. Cough on the beat.
That was on pin too. Yeah, I had a fucking it was a bit of a train wreck today. Just couldn't figure shit out. Uh-oh, Andy's fucking messaging back.
I think we definitely need more women's voices for sure. I would love to have Elaine King on.
Hold up. Okay, so yeah, no, I don't want to diminish what you're saying, but let me read this what Andy just said. She said, "Oh my!" Exclamation point! I would be honored. I may have a few stories to tell. Obviously, she does. Not to mention one of our, in parentheses, the World Disc Golf Hall of Fame's main goals is bridging the gap with the players today. The players of today with those who paved the way. Your podcast is spot on with that mission for sure. Thanks for what y'all are doing. So fun yet so important. I'm just, yeah, I mean, you need to hear it. I didn't want to just like read that. I didn't read all, I read a lot of that out loud first because you needed to hear it
Wow,
too. I'm
that's
like
awesome.
this. Fuck yeah.
Look at us. Look at us. I've been a
You know what I mean?
PDGA member since 2005, but I might get a backdoor PDGA membership because we're doing so much work for the PDGA in this way.
Hey, so listen. I gotta tell you this confession
Yeah.
time. There was a really long period of time where, I mean, like the SIBO's up and this is 22 years. I bet you like 6 or 7 of those. Let me think. 8. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Probably 7 or 8 of those where Brandon was the one that was current because he was running an event in Kansas too. And so I would just list him as the fucking tournament director. And
Right.
like, and then he would show up for the weekend. Like I'd get everything ready and have it all in order. But I was like, man, I mean, like, honestly, I still feel like if I'm not going to play any events and I'm just running events and I'm collecting money for you, you should fucking comp my goddamn membership. And I mean, I've talked to Rebecca Duffy about it before, and like we could get her on the show too.
I have no idea who that is, but okay.
She's not old school necessarily. I mean, she's semi old school, but she's one of the PDGA big knobs. So we could probably, I'm pretty certain. Well, she might say no, but she probably won't. She's tuning in.
You know what? We want Goopy because
Yeah.
I want to talk about. So one thing in
So
the
we
PD
probably need to have Goopy before we do the world champ, the second place.
absolutely, 100%.
And we need, and for sure we have to dispel the whole Rivers logo. We
Yeah.
have to.
No, that's the big, but at the same time, oh shit, where was I gonna go with that? I just had that with Goopy, but he was gonna confirm with us. Oh,
At least I'm not the only one.
I mean, first and foremost, it's gonna be extremely informative because he is one of those disc golf fucking super nerds like Chuck Kennedy or Jay Gary who remembers everything about everybody about
Those
every.
people are all my subordinates. I think you understand where I'm coming from.
But having him on, we'll have to really prepare for that shit and really prepare the poker
Oh my
faces, of
God.
course.
And like get a fucking deodorant sponsor.
Well, thank God the Zoom. We don't have to worry about that. We won't even talk about that. No, we don't have to do this. Don't have to do that. I tell you, when one of the things. Oh, great! This is what I was going to talk about. Right. Okay. PDGA numbers specifically with Ginnelly. He's 3591, and so I wanted to engage with him in a
35. So that's like half of what we are. What are you, 7'2"? And I'm
7224.
7'4". Yeah, so we're just
Pretty
under.
well.
He's just under half of what we are.
So
But
I
that's
looked
cool.
at it.
That's a great time frame. You know what I mean? I was thinking
Can,
about that tonight.
you can go on the PDJ site and you can scroll through people's numbers. You can scroll through the pages of people's numbers. And so I did. And I found where he was because you have to like skip ahead multiple pages. You can't just like go to page 44 or whatever. You have to either go from the first to the last or
Oh, really?
go
You have to
through
run through
consecutive.
and next.
So I didn't really pay attention to all the people all the faces or names that I read. But when I got to Ginnelly, I wanted to look at who was before him, like maybe the 100 numbers before, and then one of the 100 numbers after. Nothing
That's a great
really,
idea.
nothing really. It would take maybe a deeper trawl or a closer examination of those 100 numbers before. But starting at 3,600 is where the internationals started, and it was for 200 numbers. So the early PDGA reserved from 3,600 to 3,800 for international players. So it was Japanese and German for the most part.
Okay.
And Swiss. Sorry, lots of fucking Swiss. Lots of fucking Swiss. But a shit ton of Japanese. Later, you'll find that the PDJ reserved the whole 8,000 series for international and celebrity or slash honorary members. So
Right.
Larry Hagman, for instance, from
What?
Dallas, yes,
Dude, I met him.
he got a PDGA membership.
Shut the fuck up. I wish I'd have known that.
I was sitting like, if this is the desk, I'm here, and Goopy's right there, and he's talking on the phone to whoever and saying, "Okay, we're going to arrange this." And
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, he was cool. So I
Yeah.
did this. So you remember John McCain? No. The fucking dude who was from North Carolina, who God damn, I'm fucking so bad at politics. But this dude was running for president, and he had a fucking mistress that he knocked up.
Gary
And
Hart.
no, he was from North Carolina. John something. God, what was his last name? But anyways, the husband and wife, the two lawyers that cashed in the biggest off of mesothelioma. Oh, fuck, dude, I'm so fucking dropping the ball on this story. But anyways, they're from Dallas. They're oh fuck.
What? Come on, now, don't lose the story. They're from Dallas.
Yeah, but I don't, man. Oh wait. So I did a gig there, the revival, like the new version of Dallas of
Larry Hagman. Yes.
yeah, JR, the whole night. Like they did a whole another second version of it, right? So I did the rap party for that season of the TBS series or something like that.
Yeah.
I've got pictures in one of my last couple phones of Larry in this he's in this bathroom that's completely wallpapered with seashells. Like the whole entire thing. Like I actually later I got to go inside that place. I used that bathroom at one point. But like he's in there and he's taking pictures. So I'm like outside taking pictures of him taking pictures. Like I'm outside in the dark and he can't see it. And I'm taking pictures of him taking pictures of this room that's completely encrusted in seashells and shit. And then later on, he comes out because like he and the maintenance guy of the whole property, God damn, what the fuck was that guy's name? Anyways, him and the maintenance guy were tight, and Larry was a cool guy. Larry was the kind of guy that would
What
hang
year
out
was
with
this?
people like us.
What year was this?
Oh, probably 08 or 09 when I first came home.
Oh, so fuck yeah. So you've already been playing for a long time. He's already played and
I would have
been a
known.
PDJ
Like, dude, he
member.
can't. So listen, I like took pictures of it, and then he came out, and the
2000
maintenance dude,
fucking
like the
eight.
dude who was the property manager, he came out with him, and he introduced us. He introduced Larry to all of us, and we talked for a little while. And like he was cool as shit. Like he lived around here for a long time. He had stuff stored, and this was one of his home bases. And
Wow.
and like, dude, seriously, like I talked to him for a little while, and I wanted to ask him what it was like to fuck Barbara Eden, because I mean, I dream of Jeannie, right? I mean, seriously,
Okay,
guarantee
right.
you.
But
Guarantee you
now,
he fucked Barbara Eden.
knowing now that he was a disc golfer,
Oh, I mean, we already hit it off.
you would have asked him, you would have been not
I would have
interested in the
fucking
Barbara
totally
Eden
talked it up
story.
with him.
Yeah.
I'd have chatted up for sure, because he was like, seriously, it was just one of those things. Like, I treated him like a dude, but like I knew who the fuck he was, but then like I showed him, I go, dude, he said something, and we talked for a little while, and I go, hey, I want to just tell you, I got pictures of you taking pictures of that bathroom, and he goes, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I was walking outside because I was watching shit up out there. There's some lights outside in the yard, and I saw you in there taking pictures, and I was like going, hey, here's Larry Hagman taking pictures of this bathroom, and it was a fucking badass bathroom. It was really cool. And so, and it was just one of those things. He was a badass. He was a dude. Like, he totally would have dug it if I'd have talked to him about his disc golf membership. Had I known. Had I known.
So we all carry regrets with us throughout our lives. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're medium sized, hopefully not too large. I have this one, and I don't know if it's small or medium. I don't know. But it has to deal with Johnny Rockets. And he passed away a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
And he was huge hearted, a huge, passionate guy about everything in life. Whatever he was into, he was passionate about. So if he was into croquet, he would tell you loudly stories, awesome fucking stories about croquet. But it just so happened he was into disc golf. And when I was living in Montreal, we had one course in the city at the time, and it was like this shitty little 12-hole course. Just a terrible thing. But this guy was from Vancouver, met this French girl, moved to Montreal, and he's a disc golfer. And actually it started by some local Montreal guys. But there's a park in the east end of Montreal that's north of the Olympic Stadium where they did the Olympics.
Oh,
It used to be a ball golf course.
I got hooked on the Olympics in '76.
So because
that
of that,
Olympics,
right north of
when
that,
Bruce Jenner was still a fucking man.
no lightning bolts from God, eh? Okay.
He needs to give those medals back, that motherfucker.
Oh man, I tell you, if only we could say.
I'm
Anyways,
telling you, dude. I remember watching those Olympics, like on a 3-channel TV, black and white, like 12-inch tube.
oh, I know he was the decathlon. That's where he became the overall, man of America. Right there.
Seriously, I mean, I remember watching lots and lots of Olympics.
How many boxes of Wheaties were sold with him doing that?
Oh fuck, dude! Seriously.
So, just north of where the main grounds of the Olympics were, on the north side of the street, just not even north, just like across the street, was this old ball golf course. And the ball golf was removed and it was a public park, but you still had how it was landscaped. And so you would have these 1,200-foot holes, fairways that were just like long, bending, 300 feet wide, but 1,200 feet long. Perfect for just walking up and down if you're a pedestrian. But we were like, this is a beautiful place to like play objects. And my game went to fucking shit because I couldn't putt because I'm throwing at fucking trees.
Right.
I lost a significant step of my game because I was throwing against trees, but whatever, I was throwing huge bombs too. So one day I'm riding from my house and I'm going along Laurier. And right before Saint Denis, there's this first block. And then right at the corner of that first block is this old school, like greasy spoon diner kind of place, like really greasy spoon. Like you gotta be
Like
on food
Allison,
stamps to want to go
like
in there. You know what I'm
Al's in
saying?
the Twin Cities,
Like what?
like Al's in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, but like even less classy than Al's, if you will, less hygienic than Al's. But sometimes
That's easy.
it's the lender of last resort, as it were. So I'm riding my bike and I'm gonna meet up with the boys and we're gonna play at the park. But now that I've ridden my bike for a minute, all of a sudden the hunger pangs, and I'm thinking, shit, I should have something to go with me. I should, so at least I'm like eating something on the, okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna go to this old Shea diner and I'm gonna like, I'm gonna get my a grilled cheese with bacon. Take that to go. This is my plan. So I lock up my bike and I walk in the front door. And as soon as I walk in, I notice that this like it's all set up for a film crew. They got all the extra cables and shit, and they got stuff blocked off, and they got the cameras, like everything. You know what I mean? And I walk in, I go, oh shit, I'm sorry. Are you guys closed? No, 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 come on in. We're just in between shots. Come on in and order what you need to order. Now it turned out this the show that they were filming was the Canadian version of Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives, but it was called "You Gotta Eat Here," right?
Same. Yeah. I mean,
But the
reasonable
host,
translation.
the
Not
host
really.
was I used to watch a lot of I love stand-up comedy, and I used to watch a lot of Just for Laughs. There would be a half hour of Just for Laughs comedy clips from over the years because it's been like 30 years in the making, whatever. And so I recognize that the host of this show is there. So, they say, no, no, it's still open. Come on in. I go in, I order, and I'm looking around, and I go, what are you guys filming? And we're doing this television show, and this guy shows up, and I'm like, oh my God, you're John Cantucci. And he goes, how do you know my name? I'm like, well, I watch comedy shows. And he goes, holy fuck, nobody knows who I am. I'm like, yeah, well, okay, there you go. I'm the guy. And what are you doing? Like, what is this? And he's trying to tell me the thing of the show. And so then, like, all these guys, like the host of the show, plus the main DOP, and a couple of like the camera number one, all these guys kind of come over around where we are. And so this comedian host, he says, what are you doing? And I'm like, what blew you into our place right now of all times? I'm like, well, I need some road fare. I'm gonna go play frisbee golf. And they're all like, what? Oh, like to a man, 7 of them, all of them, like leaning and go, what? Yeah, I'm going down, and it's like in the East End of Montreal. And once I get there, I'm gonna need to eat this, and then I'm gonna play disc golf. And then all of a sudden, they're all looking at each other. They goes, "Who is that guy? Who is that guy? The cameraman guy who couldn't fucking stop talking about his frisbee fucking shit. We could like would all shoot long," and they're all looking at each other. Yeah, all shoot long. Yeah, all shoot long, and they're all talking with different shoots. They're all working, like this guy's working in the Klondike, this guy's working in Vegas, this guy's working, and they're all, and I don't, I've drawn a complete blank. And I pay for my sandwich when it finally gets done, and I walk, all right, see you guys. Get on my bike, and literally I'm like 4 blocks away when it hits me. Johnny Rockets. This was the cameraman. Every fucking show he shot, he was nonstop working. Like he worked show after show after show. And
Sure.
all of those different crews. He all fucking just like spouted the gospel of disc golf. And the fact that I wouldn't put it together at that's my greatest regret. not having. Oh, I know who you're talking about, Johnny Rockets. How like
I remember smoking with that cat over by the fire station and shit.
he always
And,
told
you know, I
weird
mean,
stories.
we've hung out with them a bunch of times for sure.
Yeah. So one of the things I would have, if we had more time to expand upon, was talking. I listened to his podcast, Dan Ginnelly's podcast, about talking about the memorial and how it went from the original idea of the Shelley Sharp, where that came from, and then how it became the Bob West Memorial, and then it turned into just the memorial.
Well,
And
they still have the Shelley Sharp.
they do,
Yeah.
but like that tournament was the C tournament for the memorial. Anyways, in the same way, we've been running at Midlothian at Screaming Heads. We've been running the Dushan and Adelko Memorial since 2010. But because we had to move it to this new location, it was kind of a time to reassess and broaden the parameters in the same way that Ginnelly was talking about. More than one person has moved along, unfortunately, and so the tournament that we ran this last year was just called the Memorial at the OD Memorial at Ficklewood, and it honors Dushan Rockets. And I don't know if you ever met Nick. Did you ever meet Nick?
Where's Nick from?
Nick lived in. He was originally from England, from Toronto, from the island. I think he lived on the island.
English guy?
What's that?
English guy who
Worker?
also hung out in the office?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I met him.
Scraggly kind of guy.
Little guy, real kind of
beard.
bubbly,
Bubbly,
kind of
probably
energy.
not.
No?
You probably met him. You know what? If I could find well, I'll try to find another photo sometime. But anyways, in that same vein, unfortunately, we're at that point in our lives where in disc golf,
More than less.
we've lost a lot of people. We've lost a bunch of people. And so, you look at ways in which you can honor it, and something like this just morphed from the Dushan Memorial to the memorial. And it's not something you want to boast about how many names you got on the list, of course, but it is really cool to be able to have this kind of thing to honor the by.
Yeah, and that kind of thing is definitely got a different incarnation in a lot of different places, but I mean, the common thread is obvious, and then the uncommon thread is individuals. It's good stuff, though, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. All right, I'm gonna have to pull the plug soon. It's
Yeah, fuck, it's 11 here. I'm like this. Oh, you're off this week, aren't you?
I'm off, but at the same time, I'm still up at the same time because I got to make coffee for myself and my wife, and I have to then go up the hill in Toronto and take care of my mom with knee surgery, and I do all the heavy lifting around there for now. Hopefully, she'll
How
be
are they
doing.
doing? They're good?
They're doing good.
Your
Yeah,
mom and Les?
yeah,
Yeah, tell them I said hello.
I will. They'll like
And
that.
you can definitely tell your mom that I was definitely somewhat envious of her trophies early on, back in the day before I was even a glass artist. I mean, yeah, I mean, to figure out how to pat her on the back with that, but I mean, you can word it however you want.
Yeah.
But that's cool because I remember seeing those in different places at different people's houses, and that's, dude, that's one of the cool things for me. Like, I went and stayed at Barry's house back in the early COVID days. I stayed the night there on my way back to my parents' house. That one year that I wasn't at USDGC the week it happened, I was there the week before. And you know, I really didn't think my dad was gonna make it through. And then he ended up surviving another 18 almost 2 years after that. But when I went and stayed at Barry's house, I went down in the basement into his disc room, and that platter it was from the Slinsky and like in 14, I guess. Or maybe I think it was 14. It was like my first big, it was like a 27-piece order. But anyways, like just to see that like old friend, you know, fucking, you know, great guy, person I looked up to as a golfer, but also just like a seriously old friend, you know. And to see that in this, and as one of his prized possessions amongst his discs and all of his stuff in his disc room, in his basement man cave thing, and I'm just like, oh, that's fucking cool, you know. And that's big, you know, that's really fucking cool. And
We'll have to
there's
get
a lot of
Barry on.
people, huh?
We'll have to
Oh,
get
for
Barry
sure.
on.
Oh, we can get Barry on. We definitely got to get Barry on. Like maybe
I
after Harold.
Okay, tell me if you remember this. I remember 96. Okay. Veterans
Yeah.
Park Open. Remember the Veterans Park Open 96?
Mm-hmm.
So I was there for the AM tournament. I played the AM tournament. That's where I met Dean. And then I came back. I went to Vegas, turned pro. No, 97. Sorry, 97.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Vegas. I turned pro. I came back. And I don't think I played. No, I didn't play the Veterans Park Pro tournament, but I spotted, I believe, or I volunteered in some capacity. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
But I remember, I think all of the players' awards and shit was happening up at the top. Remember, there was that covered space on top where hole number one started.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing Barry. And I think he might have been with Paul Nitz at the time. But he was wearing this colored white shirt with a design, like a custom design print on the back, was like a picture of a rock with like graffiti that said rock and something else. And I remember just being drawn by this shirt. And maybe this was just like way below your radar, but for me, I just remember because there was special mention was made of Barry being there from Wisconsin. This was November, you know, Wisconsin, you've got like a foot of snow and you're wearing a sleeveless shirt down here. And I remember the whole crowd like looked at him at that time. And I was behind him because I was, I wasn't part of the whole thing. I was just in the periphery. But I remember that whole moment, like the whole, like as if there were spotlight that were being transitioned and moved. And so it just formed on him right there. And yeah, but that shirt, especially, I would love to ask him about that shirt.
Dude, we can get him on. That'll happen for sure. I'm tight with him, and I have been like the whole time. Like I didn't split rooms with him and shit, but I definitely he fucking shit, dude. I got my putters. I got from I putt XDs, and so he said to me one time, he goes, I got some XDs in my mom's basement. And when you're talking about Paul Mitch, and he goes, when Paul used to sell discs, he goes, I got the last few discs from that. He goes, and there's I got a bunch of XDs. He goes, but you got to take them all. You got to take everything. And these are my putters.
Sheboygan
Sheboygan Aces.
Aces. Oh my God.
I got I don't know how many of these, but I got overall, I probably got 30 XDs and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Okay, what year are those from?
Fuck, I don't know, but they're fucking jewels. And when Carlton, when I stayed with Carlton at his fishing cabin, he goes, "Get your bag." He goes, "Let's compare bags." He goes, "Let's go through each other's bag." And I was like, "Okay." So I got my bag out, and he goes, "These are your putters?" And I go, "Yeah." And I go, he goes, "I'm sorry." And I go, "What do you mean you're sorry?" And he goes, "Well, they're gonna break." And I was like, "Yeah, so what? I got spares. I got a lot of spares." He goes, I go, "Man, I put an unusual disc. I got more spares than I ever am gonna need." He just kind of laughed and shit. But I was like going, "Yeah, I understand. I mean, shit, they might break, but I don't drive them. I don't ever throw them in anything but a basket." That's what it is.
Maybe should we focus on maybe some more of that kind of stuff? Like, what is it? What's in the bag? What are you driving with? What are you throwing here? What are you throwing there?
What's in the
Should,
bag's a good addition.
okay, we should. I feel like we should get more into the nitty gritty as well. Like, what's your favorite course? I wanted to like
Oh, that's a
with
great one.
with Ginnelly, I wanted to. I know there were two early outstanding courses from the early '90s that are kind of legendary that settled an imprint in people's minds. That was Laurel Springs and De La
Yeah,
Viega.
yeah.
Those were the two kind of legendary courses. I know he was a West Coast guy, but I know he also went to Laurel Springs kind of early on. But, you know, should we're having such a great time.
Without a doubt.
But maybe when we talk about like the topic of interest such as origin story, that includes all kinds of stuff like that, which maybe also tangentially moves into the what's in your bag now. Or
I think we need to make a checklist, I guess. I mean,
maybe,
because like
yeah.
seriously, dude, if you look at tonight, like I disappear and then I come back in and you're already going down the road and like I was like, holy shit, I missed a lot, you know? And
No, no, no. I was just
no,
I was
and it
just
wasn't
treading
your
water.
fault.
No, no, no. I know it wasn't your fault, but I was just treading water with Dano until you came in.
And I was just like, oh fuck, I don't know what to do here. And like it didn't like we had a great format worked out before I fucked up and hit the wrong button, and but that being said, I mean I think we were going in the right direction with the way we were trying to lay it out. And I think that man, dude, I mean I'm excited. I mean I think it's gonna be great. I think it already is great. And I think it's gonna get better than that.
The more that we take it seriously, the more that we put into it, the more that we're going to get out of it. And tonight was a great example of that. And so we we stuck to our script pretty closely
To some degree, yeah, for sure.
to some degree. I mean, sometimes I took over yours and you took over mine, but we moved it along. And if we can get the research and the writing done ahead of time, more than just 5 minutes before we go to air, obviously.
It's not the
Um,
last minute yet.
he was shaving pretty close for sure, but I mean, we know now who we have for the next couple of weeks, so let's, we'll stay in touch virtually almost most days, if not every day, to
Why
just,
not?
yeah, just to keep, because like, okay, with McCoy, for instance, what is it? I mean, we got so much to talk. I don't even know where to start.
I don't either. I mean, dude, like I've I mean, I split a lot of rooms with him at the last few years of my touring days when he was in his heyday. I've hung out with him in a lot of places. Um, I've I've stayed at his place in Tulsa a lot of times. Like, so he used to live in this house that right across the street from Hole 18's T pad on McClure. And there was a community center that is now a glass school. Like I want to go, I'm gonna go
Wow.
rent some time there and make some stuff for sure. But I still kind of intend to do some sort of a memorial to a friend of mine that lived in that house later after Kevin and Courtney moved back to Georgia, or after Courtney moved back to Georgia and Kevin followed her because they were married. And but Billy Moody, remember Billy Moody?
Totally.
Okay, so Billy Moody owns this house, and it's literally right across the street from Hole 18's T pad. Back in the day when Billy lived there, he used to run this Billy's Full Moon Mini, and it would start dark or sunset thereabouts in his front yard, and they would all go play on the floor. And he would, anytime there was a full moon, he would have a mini running out of his front yard and shit. And I mean, like, so I stayed there with Billy, and then I stayed there with Billy and Kevin, and then I stayed there with Billy, Kevin, and Courtney, and then Billy moved to Austin, and I stayed there with just Kevin and Courtney. Like during the AM Worlds, me and Brandon stayed there and helped. We staffed, and then they moved away, and then well, they were in the process of moving away, and I think they already had moved away, but for whatever reason they chose to get married at Pawhuska on the island hole of that disc golf course that is where Avery and Leah Jenkins live with their two boys, and Jim Taylor's place. And so when that wedding happened, I stayed at that house when Mike Connors lived there. Did you ever know him?
No, but you know what? I need to shut it down.
I'm like this.
Yeah.
Anyways, lots of fucking history right there.
Lots of history. We'll talk later.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like this. Sorry,
Yeah.
Natalie. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, buddy.
Have a good one, bro.